The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Yo, what up? This is Rocky Asuka Romero of Chaos, and you are listening to Keepin It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the ace of podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the ace of podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll be answering your questions and covering all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing to the Social Suplex Podcast Network or to Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Make sure you check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/Social Suplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. And if you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode of Keeping It Strong Style is brought to you by NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWworld.com with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. Visit njpwext.us today for details. All right, young boy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you, man?
Doing pretty good, man. It's a little sad with no live events this week, but we still have a lot to talk about.
We do. We've got a lot to talk about. Thank God.
So first of all, we got to talk about the match of the month and the wrestler of the month for February. So
nice, kicking it off at the start of the show so we know where it is. So we can find it later.
Yes. So it is officially March 2nd. So we're in March. So we got to talk about what happened in February.
Dude, you told me that we had to do the wrestler and the match of the month. Usually I come prepared, but like with all the cancellations, everything that's going on with New Japan, I've kind of just gone into like this autopilot mode, and I've kind of like February is like a whirlwind to me. Like there was all those road shows, and I'm like, what happened on those road shows? I mean, it was a lot. It seems like forever ago.
And then like very sneakily, New Beginning, Osaka, Sapporo, those shows happened at the beginning of February as well. Those kind of seem like they've happened in January.
Right.
So why don't you tell us who our wrestler of the month is?
Well, without any further ado, the February 2020 wrestler of the month is none other than the Dragon, Shingo Takagi.
Yeah, Shingo had a great month. 2 never title matches, winning the title from Hiroki Goto and then defending against Tomohiro Ishii. Defended the never 6-man titles as well.
Not only that, but just being like a kind of the shining standout star in all the multi-man matches that he was in all throughout the tour. Just different like teases of feuds down the line, different like challenges, and him kind of mixing it up with some of the bigger names that are out there. I mean, Shingo was kind of like the highlight of this month. And beyond that, the 2 big title matches he had with Goto and Ishii were 2 of the better matches of the entire month. So and then not only that, but like winning the title, defending the never 6-man belts, winning the never belt, which is his first singles run with the championship in New Japan. So he's had just an all-around standout month, which is no surprise to anybody. And it's got to be Shingo.
Yeah, definitely agree. Shingo, incredible month, wrestler of the month for February. And then for our match of the month, this was a nail biter, very close. It came down to 2 matches. It came down to Zack Sabre Jr. versus Will Ospreay for the Rev Pro title from New Beginning in Sapporo. And it came down to the winner that we chose for the match of the month for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, Hiromu Takahashi versus Ryu Lee. Both of these matches were incredible. I rated them both at 4.75. Literally, this could have gone either way, but for me, I liked Ryu Lee and Hiromu just a smidge better than Sabre and Ospreay.
Yeah, you know what's funny is both of these matches, while still critically acclaimed, were pretty divisive because there didn't seem to be a general consensus on either match. Like, they're both praised, don't get me wrong, but it seemed like a lot of people preferred the Rev Pro match that Sabre and Ospreay had, the next week as opposed to the one that they had at New Beginning in Sapporo. I was not in that camp. To be honest with you, I thought the match in Rev Pro was very good, but not great.
Right. I was in the same camp as you. I mean, I went 4.5 on the Rev Pro match.
I would have gone even lower. I would have gone like 4.25. I thought that the overall match was good. I thought the ending was incredible, but the bulk of the match didn't really land with me. I also think that as great as the crowd and the moment and the audience was, and even the commentary, that
production,
man, that production was so bad. And like, it's not like Rev Pro has the highest end of production values out there. I mean, they're good for an indie, but I've been watching them for a long time, and that's literally one of the worst shot matches I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, the camera work was horrible. The audio,
it's not usually that bad,
was super loud. The lighting wasn't that great. There's a lot of stuff going on to kind of hurt the match with the production.
Yeah, but it wasn't just the production. It was the actual style of the match. I think it was because with Ospreay winning and the story that they're telling, it was a much more heat-heavy match for Sabre, with Sabre putting Ospreay in a lot of dangerous positions and, teasing the submissions. There's a lot of great callbacks. It was a well-told story and a great moment, and I'm not knocking the match, but it just didn't land for me. Whereas, like, Sabre Ospreay, to me, from bell to bell, was completely almost a perfect match.
The Sapporo match?
Yes. Like, everything about it landed for me. I actually liked it, and I'm not saying this confidently, but, like, I think, going with my gut, I think I liked it a little bit more than Hiromu and Dragon Lee. But again, that's hard for me to say because this is one of the best Hiromu Dragon Lee matches they've ever had. And that was a divisive match too, because I saw some people that I respect their opinions who were like, this didn't land for me as high as I expected. And then I saw other people give it 5 stars. So,
right, yeah,
there seemed to be kind of wide varying opinions. And like I said, there were a lot of people that liked the Rev Pro match better than the Sapporo match for Sabre and Ospreay. So either way, we were treated to 2 incredible matches. And, again, Shingo had all those great matches. There's a lot of really, really good stuff in the month of February this year. But I think we went with the general consensus. Hiromu Lee probably is just a smidge higher across the board. I think you see that in Cage Match and also on Grapples. So we kind of gave Hiromu Lee the edge here. But both of these matches, you have to go out of your way to see them. They were both incredible, like just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if this was the end of the year, I think both of these matches would be match of the year contenders on our voting list.
Well, don't say that because James Boyd will tell you if it's not a top 5 match across the world or whatever, then it's not a contender. Whereas I contend to say that if it's in your top 20, top 25, we're talking about something that's worth consideration. So we got differing opinions on that whole subject matter.
Yeah, well, here on our awards, we narrow it down to 10. The 10 best matches. Best matches of the year. And so, as of right now, I think 2 of these, just in New Japan, are in my top 10. You
know what's funny is, like, I listen to other podcasts that are non-wrestling related and a lot of, like, really funny personalities and stuff. And I thought about us. I was like, in real life, we're pretty funny, but, like, on the show, I noticed, like, we don't cut as many jokes as some of these other, like, just other podcasts that cover other subjects. And I was like, if we didn't have insidery wrestling, like, references, this would be a dry ass show. Like all of our humor is completely based on like like regular people listen to it. They're like, I hear them laughing, but I don't know what they're talking about.
Right. Oh man.
But yeah, congratulations. Ryu Lee, Hiromu, Shingo, y'all the standouts this month.
All LIJ.
Oh.
Or should I say
No.
all LI.
They're not all LIJ.
Ryu Lee is he's ingobernable.
Well, here's the thing. Ryu Lee is not. Dragon Lee is.
Well, the funny thing was there were some ROH shows this weekend, and apparently Dragon Lee was wearing the Ryu Lee mask.
Is there a difference in his mask?
Well, on his the strap things, like normally it'll say Dragon Lee.
Does it say Ryu?
Yeah, and then
I didn't
in
notice.
New Japan it says Ryu.
I've never noticed.
So he was wearing his New Japan mask.
That's
ROH.
That's just because his gear was dirty. He needed to. He didn't get it washed and air dried and everything. So he's like, fuck it, I'll just get this Ryu Lee mask. No one's gonna notice.
Right.
He came out to a freaking match at the Tokyo Dome wearing what's their faction called?
Ingobernables or La Faction
de Ingobernable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're like, that is not LIJ.
He is not a member of LIJ. They made that very clear on Japanese commentary.
Oh, man. But, shout out last week. We had Dylan Fox on the show. I thought he did an incredible job here on the show. But, as things sometimes transpire, when you have someone as, wordy as me and Jeremy and Dylan, we dived deep into the subject matter of, reviewing those shows that we saw. And it didn't leave us a lot of time to actually do the questions, which we almost always do. But I was like, we got to the point where like, man, 3 hours, like we got to book it. How fortuitous for us that the big show that we're supposed to be doing this week, New Japan Cup preview, anniversary show preview, sidelined. And we have all these questions. So we have like a de facto super mailbag episode, which works out perfectly. So something tells me the Puro gods were very happy with the episode we did last week with Dylan Fox.
It's funny because the New Japan Cup and anniversary stuff broke literally probably like 10...
Bro, I was pissed.
Like 10 minutes after we recorded.
Jeremy's out here mixing and editing and doing his, technical wizardry, what he normally does. And then I get a voice message from Rich Lato. Shout out to Rich. And Rich is like, yo, if y'all not done recording, they just dropped the anniversary show and the New Japan Cup. And I was like, fuck! And I came out here and Jeremy's all tired. He's like putting stuff together. Thank you for putting everything together, by the way.
No problem.
But he's like, I was like, yo, they just dropped everything. Like, what are we going to do? And Jerry's like, we'll get it next week. Fuck it.
Well, I mean, I kind of already had it scheduled for like next week because I figured the card was going to drop sometime Tuesday or Wednesday. And we'd go over, we'd review the anniversary show because that was supposed to be today and then preview New Japan Cup.
Well, it's hard because we have a weekly show and it's scheduled for the same time generally every week. So sometimes we have the advantage over other podcasts, including like Observer and them, where like we drop some of our reviews and stuff earlier than everyone else. But then other times stuff happens midweek and everyone else is covering it. And we're like the late men. And so it's hard to kind of like schedule it out the correct way. And I was like, man, like I was hoping the cup would drop before this because I was like, then we don't have to spend so much time on them road to shows.
Right.
But it didn't drop. And then we had that great discussion last week and then it dropped and I was like, these fuckers literally dropped it minutes after we got done recording. Like I could not believe it.
Yeah, but it worked out because the shows got canceled.
Yeah, because we didn't look like fools giving our entire predictions and brackets, and not to disparage other podcasts that did that, but like I listened to a bunch of podcasts last week that were doing super in depth, great coverage and discussion about the New Japan Cup and about the anniversary shows, and all those shows are basically null and void, like because we don't know what's happening now.
Yeah, so
I feel like we're on the come up, like. The Puro gods have favored us.
So, we're going to cover some news first, and then we'll get into all the questions we were sent. Some of your questions related to some of the news items, so we'll ask them in between there. So, obviously, the biggest news is, the New Japan events that were scheduled from March 1st to the 15th were canceled due to, the coronavirus. The New Japan Prime Minister, kind of put a statement out there and kind of wanted stuff to kind of get shut down. until they can get the coronavirus stuff kind of under control. So New Japan, listening to the Prime Minister, shut down the 1st to the 15th. So that meant the anniversary show, which was supposed to be this morning, got canceled. And
never happened before, ever in history. My Corona. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, bro, this is crazy.
And then New Japan Cup has been canceled through the 15th. So, yeah, we got like 2 weeks with no live events here on New Japan World, or no live wrestling events on New Japan World.
Yeah, it was very interesting because we saw what other companies were doing in response to the coronavirus. I mean, we saw what was going on. People were in the stands and they were being very, cautious. Every show that we watched over the past couple weeks, the white mask contingency just grew and grew.
Double, because normally you see some white mask every once, in between in the crowd, but it was like the whole crowd in Corkin had the white mask on.
Speaking of which, they keep trying to tell us, so those of you who don't know, here in Tampa Bay, there have been 2 confirmed cases of corona.
Yeah.
And it's people that live out in the boondocks, which that makes some people feel like good. They're like, oh, those people, they live out in the middle of nowhere. That person's like, I don't know, they're in the middle of who knows where, here in Hillsborough. And I'm like, that does not make me feel good. How did they get it?
Where did they get it from?
Right. One person flew in from Italy, so they kind of think they know, but the other person's like kind of in isolation. And I'm like, if someone in isolation got it, then me working in a giant, industrial building with like 12 different companies and, thousands of people, I'm like, what are the chances that my building's a little petri dish and I'm gonna get this shit? And they're trying to tell us out here not to wear the mask. They're like, oh, don't wear the mask, because if you wear the mask, it's not going to protect you. It's only good for people
who are already sick, yeah.
Fuck that. I watch New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can't tell me all those people in the crowd have the coronavirus. They're wearing that shit to protect themselves. They don't want us to use... Bro, conspiracy... If we had music, we'd have a moment where we talk about... like,
Young Boys, Conspiracy of the Week.
Yeah. Bro, they're worried that we're going to run out of masks. And they're also worried that people who wear the masks will be like cause panic because they'll be seen as being like someone who's infected, which I'm telling you right now, when I go to Astro, I'm wearing a fucking mask because it will keep people away from me because they will be afraid of me. It's going to be my gimmick. But
you got to get the black one like Don Callis.
Yeah, I'm going to paint mine black, but we'll get to that. But yeah, they're trying to tell us not to wear the masks. And I'm like, bro, it's airborne particles. You can't tell me the mask covering your nose and your mouth isn't going to protect you. They wear the... I've been to Asia. I know about this shit. Like, they're working us, bro.
I mean,
media's working us.
I don't see why it would hurt to wear one.
It won't.
So...
Also, there. Did you see the Jericho podcast with the 2 crazy conspiracy theorist guys he always has on?
I usually skip all those.
Bro, I love them.
I know you do.
They're so great. They're so ridiculous. Oh man, you gotta listen to that shit. It's so like, it's hilarious. But yeah, man, I'm like, is Mania weekend even happening?
Yeah, I mean, people have been questioning, with the 2 outbreaks here in Tampa Bay area, will WrestleMania 36, will all of the events coming that week, your GCW, your WrestleCon, your WWN, will all that stuff be canceled?
Here's what I'll tell you. Fiend was the champion, no corona. He drops that shit to Goldberg, God gives us corona here in Tampa. You tell me that that's not a coincidence.
Or you could say Fiend wins a championship, Corona starts breaking out.
Oh my God. The Jeremy Donovan conspiracy theorist hour.
No, I don't mess around with the conspiracy theories. So
that don't sound like a theory. That sounds like a provable fact.
Yeah. So yeah, show's canceled, and so we didn't really get our chance to.
Well, what I was gonna say before was like, New Japan was the one company holding out. Everyone else was canceling their shows, running empty building shows. And New Japan, like, literally, if the reports are to be believed, I mean, think about it. They dropped the anniversary card and the New Japan Cup one day before they had to cancel everything. So that tells me that the reports are true. And basically what the reports are is that they had no intentions of actually canceling the shows until like the Ministry of like Health like told them like, nah, you gotta shut this shit down. And Harold Meij was like, all right, I guess we'll shut it down.
Yeah. So yeah, they shut it down and yeah, no shows. And so we never got a chance to really talk about the anniversary card or the New Japan Cup. And obviously we're not going to sit here and give you an hour breakdown of the anniversary show or the New Japan Cup, but I would just like kind of brief thoughts on anniversary card and just kind of the New Japan Cup and the people who were announced and maybe where we saw it potentially going.
Well, I'll start with this first. The 48th anniversary event, which was supposed to be taking place today, looked like shit. Okay, I'll just say that right off the bat. They didn't announce the card until they announced the New Japan Cup, and the reason for that was because the majority of the show was multi-man matches, literally from top to bottom, until you got to the main event, which was obviously going to be Tetsuya Naito against Hiromu in a non-title match. With that being said, the reason that they didn't do the announcement was because most of the tag matches were teasers and preview matches for the first round of the New Japan Cup, which kind of makes sense from a logical booking standpoint. But when you look at previous anniversary shows, it's usually treated as a pretty big card. Usually get at least like one or two other title matches or special singles matches. We weren't getting that. We were getting one big title. This is like a Conor McGregor card, like one really big drawing card and then a bunch of, mid.
Yeah, so just real quick. So the card was Togi Makabe and Tomoaki Honma versus Tsuji and Yumura. Nagata, Tiger Mask, and Gabriel Kidd versus Zuki Desperado and Kanemaru. Tenzan, Kojima, Juice, and Finley. And Toa Hanare against Goto, Ishii, Yano, Yoshihashi, and Robbie Eagles. Tanahashi, Ibushi, and Taguchi versus Sabre, Taichi, and Doki. Okada, Ospreay, Sho, and Yo versus Shingo, Evil, Sonata, and Bushi. And then the main event, non-title, the champion, Tetsuya Naito, taking on Hiromu Takahashi.
So giving a quick rundown of the New Japan Cup, what kind of got announced was in the first bracket, I'll call it like the A bracket. You had Makabe against Cobb, Ishii against Hanare, Yano against Owens, Colt Cabana against Bad Luck Fale. That was like the first block. The second block on the same side, you had Okada Jay White round one, which was a big. I mean, that's a huge match. We've seen it, three other times, always in a major spot. So that's a big one to give away first. Nagata and Suzuki kind of like reigniting their long-standing rivalry in the same block. Juice against Al Coughlin and Coughlin and Dave Finlay against...
You had it right, Coughlin.
Coughlin, okay. Dave Finlay against Tangaloa. On the next side, in the C slot, we had Tanahashi and Taichi, Kota Ibushi, and Zack Sabre Jr., which is very interesting because you've got the battle of tag team partners. So hypothetically, you could end up with Dangerous Tekkers against each other or the Golden Aces. So very interesting there. And then in the same side, you had Nichols and Sonata, and then Will Ospreay and Shingo Takagi, round one.
Huge first round match.
Huge first round match. I mean, you look at that and you're getting our match, or the match of the year pretty much across the board, all across almost every single voting spectrum. So that's huge, the rematch. And then in the final slot, you had Tenzan, Yoshihashi, Carl Fredericks against Kenta, Satoshi Kojima against Evil, and Goto against Takahashi. And again, a 32-man bracket, second year in a row. And what was going to be really cool about this was, each one of these little blocks that I mentioned were going to occur on one night. So like that first A slot, you were going to get all four of those matches on March 4th, and then so on and so forth. So, that was, they had a really good little schedule, like, made up there, and this is going to take place from the 4th to the 21st. And, everything's canceled to the 15th. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're going to do, but also...
we don't know.
Yeah, they announced that the winner was supposed to get a double title match at Sakura Genesis March 31st.
That kind of tells you that at least I will say that I was wrong in the whole idea that, like, Naito drops that white belt.
Well, based on what Naito has been saying, remember he was saying he was only going to defend one at a time, but I guess, the IWGP committee wants both titles defended at once.
Yeah, and it makes sense because we talked last week about the elevation of the tag titles, and the same thing with like the U.S. belt and the Never title. They've moved some of their bigger stars into place with those belts, and I think those are placeholders while the IC belt is kind of eliminated and tied into the IWGP title.
Yeah. So who did you have winning this thing?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I've been saying Sonata for a very, very long time. But this dropped late at night, and I was so pissed. I was like, I'm not going to look at it. And then the next day, I've just been busy with work. I've been busy with like my study, and I didn't really look at it again. And then it got canceled, and then I was like, oh, okay. I've listened to some other people, but by the time I found out it got canceled, I didn't really even give it a second thought about who I really thought was going to win, because I was like, it doesn't really make sense for me to dwell on it because it's not happening now. But if you'd like, you can share your thoughts, and maybe if you want, we can very briefly give a condensed version of what we would have done, maybe go through who we thought would win each block and, the different scenarios, because I don't think it's too hard to do.
Yeah, so you just want to start with the A block and kind of work our way through it real quick?
Yeah, so Makabe and Jeff Cobb, and keep in mind, listeners, that the New Japan Cup is rife with upsets and, unexpected, if you had been predicting this and you would put all your favorites in you're going to be disappointed, because New Japan Cup is notorious for having upsets in the first and second round and things of that nature. So keep that booking in mind. But I guess I would have gone with probably Jeff Cobb there.
Yeah, I would have gone with Cobb. And then you have Ishii, Toa Hanare. I would go with Ishii. So set up Cobb and Ishii in that
Which would have been a really cool opportunity for Hanare in the first round. But we end up with Cobb, Ishii, which we've seen before. And then after that, you had Yano, Owens, Cabana, and Fale, which is not the best block in the world.
Yeah.
I love Chase, but he's kind of slotted in there with some limited guys. And again, you've got tag partners, kind of similar thing that we talked about on the other side of things. So, I guess I would probably, I don't know if I think you either go Yano, Fale, or you go Owens, Cabana.
Right. I know a lot of people were thinking, they're going to do Yano Cabana, which I believe they didn't do that last year.
I can't remember, but I think they might have.
Yeah, I feel like that happened last year. Like those both got into like the same bracket and they faced each other. I think that's how their partnership started.
Last year, Chase Owens had a big upset, right?
Yeah, he defeated Juice in the first round.
Right. So I don't know. I just for shits and giggles, I'll go Colt Cabana, Chase Owens.
I would go Yano Fale just because of the Yano Fale kind of history.
That works too. That's fine. So then you end up. Ishii and Jeff Cobb, just because this company likes to do shit like this, I would go Jeff Cobb.
I think I'd go Ishii.
That's fine. The only thing is, Ishii, they fuck him.
Right.
So, okay, that's fine. I would have gone Cobb, but we can go Ishii. It's not a big deal to me. And then after that, you've got Yano and Cabana. So if you're going Ishii, you end up with Fale?
No, I think I would go Yano Ishii.
Then you end up with an chaos match. Yeah,
tag partners going against each other.
Well, it's fine because
former tag partners.
It doesn't matter because whatever we book is how it was. This is exactly how it was going to happen. But at that point, you think Ishii's going to the semifinals,
right? So then, I'd have Ishii beat Yano and have Ishii go to that final four.
For what it's worth, I think either Fale or Cobb would have been my two favorites in this block.
So then we move down to the B block. So Okada and Jay White, that huge first round match. Yeah, I would go Jay White. It
sounds crazy, but Jay makes sense just because the upsets and, if Okada loses, there's no chance of him even being in contention for that title. He just lost it. Jay kind of needs the big win. It makes all the sense in the world that they give Jay the screwy finish win.
And plus, Okada won the New Japan Cup last year, so what bigger upset than to have the New Japan Cup winner from last year be completely out in the first round?
And you can imagine the promos Jay would have cut off of that. So, yeah, you go Jay. After that, you got Nagata and Suzuki. I don't know. Maybe, I guess you'd probably go Suzuki, but with Jay White.
I go Nagata.
You might go Nagata.
Yeah. Get another upset there.
After that, Juice is obviously beating Alex Coughlin, and I would probably go Tangaloa after that.
See, I would go Finley And I know there's going to be a lot of like inter-partner matches here, and I think that's the theme they're trying to set up here.
Yeah.
And so I would go Finley and Juice, especially since they've been having some troubles with the tag title scene, and then maybe you cause some dissension, you tease it with one of these guys beating each other.
There's nothing wrong with that, but I think a lot of these potential partner matchups are pretty much just red herrings. I think Tangaloa is the next guy. Maybe that sets up a few, obviously Finn Juice and GOD have a lot of beef, so I would just go Tangaloa. And then, so after that, basically, we think Jay White's beating Nagata.
So it would be Jay White and Nagata.
That's what I said.
Yeah, so Jay White would beat Nagata.
And then what, you would put Juice over next?
Yeah, so it would be Juice. I would have Juice beat Finley, so then you get Jay White and Juice at rematch from the Cow Palace.
We pretty much both agree that Juice would end up being the next guy regardless. So you end up with Juice and Jay, and I think Jay beats Juice.
Yeah, so that would put Ishii and Jay White on the final four on the left side of the bracket.
You know what? That's fine. I would have maybe gone Cobb, but Ishii makes a lot of sense as a suitable person for if you're going to go Jay on that bracket. Ishii does kind of make sense, so that's fine. On the opposite end of things, this is one that a lot of people weren't sure about. Tanahashi, Taichi, Kota Ibushi, Zack Sabre. Where are we on that?
So for me, I think I would go Tanahashi, Sabre.
And I would go Taichi, Kota Ibushi. Tanahashi just seems it's a big win for Taichi. Although, you know what?
My whole reason is
it's Zack in the New Japan Cup.
Well, that and just the whole story I feel like they've been telling with the Golden Aces is like Ibushi is like, for whatever reason, kind of a step behind Tanahashi right now. And Tanahashi's the one that's been getting all the falls in their tag team matches. So Ibushi is kind of like a step behind right now.
Right. So, I mean, regardless, I'm just going to say this right now. I think ultimately whoever wins between... Yeah, I think Zack Sabre makes sense because I think if Zack goes into the next round, I think he's beating Tanahashi.
Yeah, that's what I would do to solidify Dangerous Tickers getting a tag title match.
So then after that, you end up with Sonata and Nichols and Ospreay and Shingo. And that's a tough one because I think Sonata's for sure beating Mikey Nichols.
Yep, I would. Yeah, Sonata's beating Nichols. And then I was going Shingo over Ospreay.
I would do that too, but then you end up with Shingo and Sonata inter promotion, which might be great, but yeah. So let's just do that, Shingo and Sonata. After that, I think Yoshihashi beats Tenzan.
Yoshihashi over Tenzan.
And Kenta beats Carl Fredericks.
Yep.
And then Kojima and Evil and Goto and Yujiro. That's not a great block.
Yeah, I mean, I would go Evil over Kojima so he can get the win back from the New Japan Road Tour.
And you wind up with him and Goto?
Yeah, Goto beating Yujiro.
Okay, so then Kenta is probably going to beat Yoshihashi?
Yeah.
Or do you think they pull an upset there?
Nah, I think Kenta beats him.
Okay.
And then I think Evil beats Goto. You get Kenta Evil there.
You could, but also Goto and Kenta, you could do the rematch.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that.
I think I would go Kenta Goto and have Kenta win. And then we're pretty much talking about Sonata and Zack Sabre in the other block.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's coming down to, I think Sonata was going to beat Zack.
Mm-hmm.
So you wind up with Sonata against
Kenta.
You could do that. Of course, if you made Evil go through, you could have Sonata wind up against Evil.
Yeah, that's what my original booking would be.
That's a possibility. But I think you might end up with Sonata Kenta. So it might be like Sonata. I think most people really thought the finish here was going to be Sonata versus Jay. And I think that looks like what I think it was probably going to end up being.
Yeah, that was what I was predicting also, Sonata versus Jay White, which
after their match at the beginning
not
isn't
very
too
exciting.
Inspiring,
Yeah.
but also put on the big stage. Who knows? Maybe they deliver. Maybe they shit the bed again. And then I think with all of that, I think ultimately I was probably going to still go Sonata. I think that they laid out a roadmap for him to win.
Right, and it's an interesting story where you have the guy who was in the finals last year, but the runner-up in Sonata, and then you have the guy who lost his title to the New Japan Cup winner from last year. So,
of course, you could always have Jay White win, And then you've got Jay against,
Naito,
and obviously the history between them is pretty well laid out. So that's also a possibility. So I think that those are your two most likely scenarios.
Yeah, but I think, kind of following Hiromu and Naito, I think it made a lot of sense to do Naito and Sonata.
Yeah, I don't know totally what they're doing with this whole story with the double titles or with LIJ, but yeah, I could agree with you. I think that makes sense, especially since Sonata was kind of slotted in a higher role, arguably speaking, last year over, where Naito was.
Yeah.
Within the pecking order of the company.
So that's our kind of quick and dirty New Japan Cup predictions of what we thought might have happened.
So we have some questions here. Highest Fly Flow says, with many companies canceling shows due to the corona, what do you think of Stardom's approach of running an empty Korakuen show? Think New Japan could run an empty venue successfully? And I thought we had a similar question to that as well. But we can deal with that one. It's fine.
I don't know how I would feel about the empty arena show. I mean, the crowds just bring an energy, and crowds elevate matches. Right. I'm sure the matches would still be good, but just no crowd reaction to, pop for the moves, pop for the stars, elevate the whole kind of the atmosphere. I don't know how it would come off.
I don't think the positives outweigh the negatives for a company like New Japan. I could see why some regional companies might do it to some extent if it's feasible for them. You have to keep in mind what the business goals of each company are and what their structure of bringing in income are. Does this hurt New Japan? It absolutely does. Just like it does any company that's not running shows. I do have to wonder about some of these companies that are running quote unquote empty arena matches. It's like, what business are you doing if there's no one to sell tickets to?
Well, I know for a lot of the Stardom matches, they rearranged the card, so a lot of less important matches were happening on the empty arena show, and then they kind of pushed the bigger title matches to whenever the next big show would be.
Right, but think about this: the cost of running, say, a Korakuen Hall or whatever you do with no ticket sales. How is that not a loss?
Right, it is definitely.
It's a huge loss, and I mean, maybe they're doing it because if they have a streaming service or what have you, they want to keep people interested and invested. I think for a big company like New Japan, it's a bad look to run an empty arena show. Even if, given the circumstances, we understand why it's happening, it doesn't make sense for them to do that.
Right.
I think they did say in the press release that all the wrestlers were still getting their pay for the shows, though.
I think they did say that, yeah.
Which is great if that is the case. But yeah, could they run an empty venue successfully? Sure, they could. But I think that New Japan has enough backing to not have to do that. And
exactly. They're in a great financial position right now where obviously it's a loss, but they have that cushion to where they could afford just to cancel the shows.
Right. So, yeah, I don't think that they would have done that, and I don't think it would have been a good idea. Next question from PSAN91. He says, with the events for New Japan getting canceled, how do you think they'll reorganize the schedule? Do you think we'll get a more condensed New Japan Cup schedule, or will they push it back to later, like April, and have some of it replace some of the Road 2 shows?
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I have no idea what they're going to do. I mean, with a 32-man bracket, it's going to be kind of hard to get it through in the remaining shows that they could potentially do. It probably would make the most sense to move it to that Dontaku tour, get rid of those, turn those Road 2 shows into New Japan Cup shows, and do the tournament in April, and you have the winner face Naito at Dontaku.
Well, that's a possibility. The other thing, too, is they might just scrap the New Japan Cup entirely, and maybe at Dontaku they just end up giving us the Hiromu and Naito match for the title, kind of up the ante.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is if they do end up running some shows down the road, it's not like they couldn't hypothetically do the New Japan Cup in 2 or 3 nights. You think about WrestleMania 4, and they did a 32-man tournament in one night. Now, granted, you're not going to get the epics that you were probably hoping for with big matches like, you know, Shingo and Ospreay, things like that, or, you know, some of the other top-tier matches. But if they needed to do that to just facilitate completing the tournament and keeping their booking going, the workers could do that. And that might actually work out and be something that's a good idea and fun for them to do.
Yeah, so you would have the 16th, the 17th, the 18th, the 20th, and the 21st, which are still left.
Yeah. Or another thing is they could condense the tournament. They could do a 16-man tournament over just a couple nights if they really wanted to do it that way, or an 8-man tournament, or a 4-man tournament, or not do it. They have a lot of options on their table.
Yeah, with narrowing the tournament down, what's like the kayfabe reasoning to like how would you pick who you're eliminating? Like what reason?
These individuals who are still being considered based off their records, based off
stats.
The stats. Yeah, they could call up Chris Amsa. Shout out to Chris.
Yeah, what's up, Chris?
And figure out who's the most deserving to be in the tournament. Based on their placement in the company. I'm not saying they're going to do that, but that's
right. But
done.
if they're going to narrow down 16, that would make the sense.
Yeah.
To kind of get down to what they were probably going to do for the next round there.
Another thing they could do. Gato's a master at booking. Maybe they forego it for now, but they do it later.
Right. Maybe they do the New Japan Cup later in the year with this year's schedule all up in the air based off, G1 being in the fall and then the Olympics in Tokyo.
They could do it in like May, June, or July.
Right.
It's possible.
That Hokkaido tour that's happening in July, they could potentially do it there.
Yes, they have options if they want to, or they could just not do it this year. It's that's a possibility. There have been years where they didn't do certain tournaments, things of that nature. There's like I don't want to misquote, but I think there's like a 2-year period where they didn't even run like a quote unquote G1. So it's possible that they do something like that. We don't know yet. We're still waiting to hear. I don't know if anyone knows.
Right. And so Howard Chillen asked a pretty similar question to saying, with them canceling New Japan Cup over the coronavirus scare, do you envision them doing something to make up for it some way later in the year? I know the schedule makes it difficult, so yeah, we just kind of pretty much answer that.
And I don't know if they need to like make up for it. I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying that you're saying like, oh, they fucked up, they need to make up for it. But like in a way, that verbiage makes it a little bit sound like that. Mm-hmm. I'm not supposing that that's what he means, but do they even need to make up for it? Here's one thing I will say. I don't think that this New Japan Cup looked too inspiring to me. There was some really good first round. The first round looked awesome. And there were some interesting, fresh matchups that were going to come out of some of the probable, decisions.
Yeah.
But when I kind of think about like the last 2 or 3 years of New Japan Cup and kind of compare some of the other round matchups, I don't know that this New Japan Cup would have compared to, say, last year or the year before, honestly, just based on the positioning of everything.
Yeah, I feel the first New Japan Cup that we reviewed and previewed here on this show, what was that, 2018 New Japan Cup?
I loved that tournament.
I feel that was a real great tournament.
Everyone says last year's was the best, though.
Last year's was a great too, but
like that's what most people say. I don't know that I agree with it, but that's like the general. Everyone's like, they had the best New Japan Cup, they had the best G1, they had the best Super Juniors all in the same year.
Mm-hmm. I did like last year's tournament, but I really felt that 2018 tournament was special. And you got that build of Zack Sabre tapping out everybody. There were so many cool
stories in that tournament. Yeah.
So yeah, this tournament, we don't know. Just based off of on paper, it didn't look out of this world to me.
Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. I really don't know. But next question from Viking Pain. He says, what's going to happen to the New Japan Cup this year? Will it be moved to a different tour? Will the brackets be condensed down to a smaller size to fit in the remaining weeks of March? And with Sakura Genesis being on March 30th, I don't think they'll have time to do the New Japan Cup and might just main event the show with Naito Hiromu. So he kind of mentioned the same idea I mentioned. Also, Dave Meltzer recently said he thought it was foolish for Japanese wrestling companies to cancel their upcoming shows because of the coronavirus. Is old Uncle Dave starting to lose his mind, or do you guys agree with him? Did he say that?
I'm trying to think. I've been listening to Observer Radio. I read the Observer. I don't remember him saying that. Unless
Viking Pain's out here slandering Dave. I'm gonna tweet Dave. I don't have a Twitter, but I'm gonna get one and I'm gonna tweet him and be like, "Yo, you should have heard what Viking Pain said." Where are we at? 43 minutes and 57 seconds, episode 118, Keeping It Strong Style.
Yeah, If he did say it, I totally missed it, and I'm not calling Viking Pain a liar if he heard it or read.
You're a liar, Viking. No, I'm just playing.
But yeah, so if he said that, I mean, the Prime Minister is saying to shut the shows down. Like,
well, I mean, I thought some of the things New Japan had said publicly were like, where they're like, listen, if you can't attend the show due to health reasons, we'll give you a full refund. I was like, perfect. And
right.
like,
if you feel sick, don't come.
Don't come. Please wear a mask. We're going to have, hand washing and sanitizing stations posted, I was like, that's a great idea, Now, I don't know how serious this is over there. We haven't really experienced it yet. It does sound like it's a big fear. I've got friends who actually work in the CDC who have kind of told me about it, and they're like, the reality is, and this is coming from them, this is not my opinion or what they told me is that like the reality is that the majority of people who are this is definitely a bad thing, but it's not generally killing regular healthy individuals. It's killing I hate to say this, but like younger people who have like weakened immune systems and older people, like
right.
Those are the people that are at most at risk, which of course, and like if you do end up getting it, they just want to quarantine you so that you don't end up spreading it, but it's not necessarily any more dangerous than say like the flu. And in fact, they're saying the flu is still more dangerous, which I had the flu this year and recorded this show, by the way, shout out to me. But, so I think some of the fears, I don't want to say they're overblown because you don't want something like this spreading and killing people, obviously. But I could see both sides of it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, again, don't know how serious is there. I haven't really been following, the outbreaks and how many people have it in Japan right now. But on one hand, you could see, you want to be as safe as possible and you don't want to put other fans at risk. You don't want to put the wrestlers at risk of getting it. So shutting down the show seems like a reasonable decision. And then on the other hand, you are losing business. And if you can just have people, if they feel like they're sick, don't come, and have the extra hand stations and the mask and, try to make everything as cleanly as possible, then I could see why some people might think it's ridiculous canceling the shows.
Yeah, I mean, I think every company kind of needs to do what's best for their business and also what's best for the talent and the fans and just kind of keep everything in perspective. But ultimately, I don't even know if Dave said this. I've been listening to Observer and I haven't heard him say that. Maybe he wrote it. I don't know. Maybe he tweeted it. You know how he likes to tweet.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, it's kind of out of everyone's control. Like, when the country's sort of making them do it, the government, things of that nature. I think as far as the rest of this question from Viking Pain, we pretty much covered all those different scenarios. I would still like to see the New Japan Cup happen.
Right, yeah.
But I'm not so married to the idea. I understand, and this company gets leeway with me, especially considering the circumstances. If they end up not having to do it and they have to call an audible, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, they can just turn Sakura Genesis into a super card and just, put Naito and Hiromu in the main event like you mentioned. And, you stack that show with some other title matches that have been teased down the line. Maybe you do Golden Aces versus Dangerous Techers. You do a Never Shingo versus, maybe Hanare or somebody of these Never guys that have been stepping up to him lately, and you kind of turn Sakura Genesis into a big show and then do the New Japan Cup after Sakura Genesis or layer down in the year. Or, like you said, maybe just not do it at all. There are so many options for these guys to do with the New Japan Cup and Sakura Genesis and stuff down the line. And, the schedule is so packed this year. There are so many shows. They can easily tweak stuff down the line and make it work.
Yeah, I think ultimately, we like to praise Gato and talk about how great of a booker he is and everything. And don't get me wrong, he is. But this is where the rubber meets the road. We're going to find out how good you can book.
All right, so that wraps it up for that topic. So next up on the docket here, the New Japan Together Project.
I would just like everyone to know right now, because we don't ever talk about it. A good majority of the time when we're recording this podcast, I drink a lot of water and different beverages, and I run to the bathroom, and you guys never know when I leave, and I come back and I pop in just that entire time, I have no clue what Jeremy was talking about, but I knew what I wanted to say, and I got my shit in, as they say.
So the NJ...
We do it flawlessly.
Yeah. The NJ...
We never even have to, like, post-edit.
Right.
Like, ever, hardly.
Yeah, I just have my best to ramble on and just keep going.
Bro, it's because I know you can talk, so I'm just like, all right, I'm going to let you do your thing.
So, yeah, the NJPW Together project is the kind of plan to bring content to NJPW World through March, this time period where these New Japan Cup and Anniversary shows are canceled. So there's going to be interviews, talk panels, and never-before-seen matches from the archives.
Yes. I love that.
Some of the Together project content is only going to be in Japanese.
Boo.
And as of right now, so today, March 3rd, there's going to be a Hiromu Takahashi versus Tetsuya Naito special interview. And then on Wednesday, March 4th, there's going to be a Hiromu Takahashi and Tetsuya Naito special talk show. And there will be more stuff announced down the line. That's what's going to be a part of this NJPW Together project.
Yeah, I think the fact that they're having multiple back-to-back interviews and talk segments with Hiromu and Naito tells me that they had like anticipated and planned to do the big anniversary match, and it was kind of an important seminal sort of thing for them. And now that they're doing this, it kind of tells me that it's probably a good indicator that they're going to end up doing it at Sakura Genesis, and they're probably just going to scrap the New Japan Cup.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what matches they pull out the archives.
Oh, me too, bro.
So that should be fun.
Well, never before seen matches from our archives.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that mean? Like, what do they have in there that no one has seen? You know?
Yeah, or maybe like obviously people seen it live, but like never.
Well, most of their like big matches have all been taped and made television and were offered, and even though maybe they weren't tape traded or maybe they weren't available on New Japan World, it's like they still were seen. So this is different. If they're saying that it's never before seen, maybe that's just hyperbole. But if it's stuff that's never been seen, I'm like, what do they got in there that or
maybe never before seen on New Japan World, maybe.
I hope that that's not what they mean. Well, it's fine. I'm fine with that. If it's just like rare stuff that they have or stuff that needs to be put up that they haven't put up in a while, that I'm fine with that too. But I'm hoping it's stuff that's like never been seen, because they do have some shows, especially older ones, that like stuff made tape, but like it got cut, joined in progress, or lost hypothetically. So I mean, yeah, I would love that.
So next up, Party Marty is at work, and ROH has announced a War of the Worlds tour featuring New Japan talent, which will take place on May 6th in Buffalo, May 7th in Toronto, May 9th in Michigan, and May 10th in Villa Park, Chicago. So we've talked about...
Do you know what this is like? Okay, so we talked about when Ring of Honor and New Japan were kind of having issues. New Japan started running some of their arenas without them. And then the partnership kind of got shaky, and we weren't really sure. We were like, oh, they might be dropping them. And then they ran that tour here in the States, the last month or so. Didn't do so hot. And while this is how I see it. It's like a breakup. They were together, and then like New Japan started realizing like they were the A side of the relationship. They didn't really need Ring of Honor. They didn't, they're able to run those shows without them. They're like, I'm out here living my best life. What does this person add to my life?
Right.
But then they tried to go out on their own, and they found out that it's a cold, harsh world out there. Maybe they weren't as hot as they thought they were. And while the relationship was getting bad, what was Ring of Honor doing?
Improving themselves.
They were improving themselves. They were reading. They were working out.
Self-improvement.
They were eating better. They went out and got a new haircut. They got some new clothes.
Yep.
Bought a new car.
Lost some weight.
And then New Japan like looked over and like, Ring of Honor's looking kind of good, right? I mean, they're not AEW or WWE, but they're looking kind of good right about now. And they start thinking about some of the old times. Start thinking back on. They're like, remember we used to run those tours together? They used to be,
remember those War of the Worlds?
They started thinking about the good old times. Like, why don't we just meet up for coffee? See, we don't know what's been going on with them because it's all been private. Basically, it's been like they've been texting each other secretly. They've been doing some FaceTime, and you know,
one of them's been like liking the other's Instagram posts a lot. Like, somebody's interested again.
They're not at the point where they're taking photos and posting them publicly.
Right.
Again,
it's all in the DMs, but liking each other's stuff.
But then one day you find out they're going on vacation together. They're doing this tour, and you're like, wait, they're back together, and they act like nothing ever happened, and that's what this War of the Worlds tour is.
Yeah, so we've talked about it. You know, Party Marty has been working the relationship between Ring of Honor and New Japan, and
improving themselves.
And you know, the first big sign was a Super Card of Honor, all those New Japan guys being featured there, and now we're getting War of the Worlds again. So it's going to be interesting to see which New Japan guys end up on this show. Are we going to get, you know, the War of the Worlds where we got, you know, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Kevin Owens, or are we going to get like, you know, Beer City Bruiser versus Tenzan?
I'm pretty sure we're not getting Nakamura and Kevin Owens.
Well, obviously.
Something tells me that that's probably not happening. I would love it. And I think you can watch it on Honor Club.
Oh, the old match, yeah.
Have they fixed their archive yet?
I haven't checked it out yet, but that match, I know it's up on their YouTube, I think.
When's the last time you booted up your Honor Club subscription?
Last month when I watched the Bandito Flamita against Briscoes.
Aside from that.
Before that,
God.
Yeah, I can't tell you that.
Throwing away money.
Yeah, I'm on the fence on whether or not I want to renew, just because they are doing some good stuff now, but at the same time, like, I really don't have any time to be watching this Ring of Honor, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, the War of the Worlds tour has literally been kind of shitty the last couple of years, honestly. I mean, there were some memorable matches, but hardly part of the canon. Very low stakes. Like, they were pretty much at one point pretty much just sending over Dads and LIJ. And Yoshihashi, and that was like it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, long gone are the days when we had, like, big title matches, title changes, stuff like that. So, hopefully, with all the positive things that have been happening with you know, the relationship between these two companies and all the positive things that have been happening with Marty at the helm, that kind of changes. And I think that if they're smart, I'm not saying they have to give us, like, you know, obviously I'm not saying that they need to do like Sakura Genesis level like shows or like Wrestle Kingdom or something like that, but give us something that we can sink our teeth into. Give us one like Ring of Honor title match with a big star, like, you know, have Suzuki wrestle Rush, or have you know, have Rush have a title defense against somebody that matters. Somebody.
Give us Ishii versus PCO.
Oh yeah, I would love that. Yeah, something like that. That would be so cool.
Actually, now scrap that. Brody King versus Ishii.
We can do that too.
That would be great.
You can have Ishii against Rush.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's different things. Just do something. You know, whatever it is, wow us.
So following that, we have so AEW Revolution was this past Saturday, and in the post-match presser, Tony Khan was, you know, speaking with the wrestling media and made a comment about New Japan. And Tony Khan said he's cool with talent working for New Japan when it doesn't interfere with AEW, but it hasn't been a two-way street. He said, I don't hear from them often, but if you guys are watching this, you're welcome for all the great stuff I've done for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I heard that, and I thought it was very, like, provocative, obviously. It does make me wonder, like, what the working relationship, or, like, not working, but, like, what the communication / relationship between them is at this point. But, I mean, here's the big difference. Tony Khan wouldn't be letting his people work over there if Tony Khan was trying to run shows and tours in Japan.
Right.
And he's not. If Tony Khan had a partnership with, say, Noah, he wouldn't be letting them do that. And he doesn't. And it's not the same. It's not apples to apples. And I'm not even standing up for New Japan because I love the idea of New Japan and AEW talent working together. So I'm all for that. But they have a partnership with Ring of Honor. They're trying to run shows in the U.S. They are a direct competitor with AEW in America. And yes, Tony Khan will let them work over there when it doesn't interfere. But he's not going to let, you know, Jon Moxley work the Madison Square Garden show or any low-level, you know, tour that New Japan or War, you know, could you imagine if he let his dudes work, like, say, War of the Worlds?
Right, yeah.
It's not happening. So it's cool that he can say that, but anyone who's smart knows that it's not the same thing at all.
Right.
And I don't blame Tony Khan. I really don't. Like, but like New Japan and him are not in the same position.
And I think that answers the question that we got from the All Things Elite Twitter account, All Things Elite, the AEW podcast right here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. And they ask, why won't New Japan give the people what they want? # open the door.
Open the forbidden portal.
The portal.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. New Japan is trying to run a company in America. They're partnered with a company in America. And both of those companies are direct competitors with AEW. So it wouldn't make any business sense for them to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we've had long, lengthy discussions about the All Elite Wrestling New Japan conundrum on this show multiple times. I don't feel like it's worth even aside. I get why we're talking about it because of this statement, but it's not happening.
Right. And if you think about like the New Japan Ring of Honor relationship at first, like obviously New Japan wasn't really running in the United States. They would send their guys over, War of the Worlds, Global Wars, Best in the World, Final Battle. They would send over the big guys for those tours because they weren't really running in the U.S. Then they got hot in the U.S. and they're like, let's do Long Beach. Oh, that went well. Let's do the Cow Pals. Let's do all these shows in the U.S. And also they're doing more shows in the U.S. So, and we saw a little bit of the splinter there with Ring of Honor. So it's kind of hard when, yes, New Japan's trying to, create the brand here and run the United States.
I wish we lived in a world where all three of these companies could coexist and have partnerships and work together. I wish that was a possibility. Maybe one day it will be. Who knows? We've seen stranger things happen, but right now, that's why.
Right.
And also, I'd like to say thank you, Tony Khan. You have let some pretty cool stuff happen in New Japan. Thank you for that. Because it has been cool.
Yeah, so hopefully, the door will be cracked open a little bit and we'll get some more kind of cross appearances from some AEW New Japan guys.
But I don't know. The only thing I didn't like about it was how snarky he came off.
Right. It was very snarky,
which is I get it. Maybe, who knows? Because we don't know the whole ins and outs. Maybe he has tried to offer some olive branches and New Japan has taken advantage of it and he doesn't like that. So maybe that's why he has that sort of attitude. But he's like, you're welcome.
Yeah.
For all the cool stuff. I wish you guys would, basically he's saying, AKA, send me Okada. So, yeah.
So then free match of the week is the 2015 New Japan Cup match between Kota Ibushi and Tetsuya Naito. It's up on YouTube and NJPW World. Guerrillas of Destiny, they're going to be on the NJPW official English podcast this week. And note on Tama Tonga, I know a lot of people kind of threw up a red flag when they saw Tanga Loa instead of Tama Tonga on the New Japan Cup bracket. Well, Tama Tonga was off the New Japan Cup tour to welcome a baby girl into the world and to finalize details for the Bullet Club Beach Party happening here in Tampa during the WrestleMania week.
Did we talk last week about Lance Archer going officially All Things Elite?
We didn't, but I have that on in the other section in the news.
That was another thing, too, the fact that he wasn't on any of the posters or listed on the New Japan Cup brackets, and then we found out why.
Yeah. And then last thing here in the New Japan section of the news, so New Japan and Under Armour are collaborating together, and so we got some official Lion Mark branded Under Armour.
Doesn't Under Armour have a deal with WWE as well? I feel like they do. I feel like...
I think they used to. Their WWE's would Tap Out right now.
Oh, that's right. It's Tap Out. I'm confused. Okay. Speaking of GOD, they're going to be working the We Run This Town GCW shows that we'll be covering during Mania weekend.
That's right. Yeah. So
hopefully we get the hookup there.
Yeah, that would be great to get them. Maybe get a quick interview or something with those guys.
So in other news, and this is a big one, guys. So Jun Akiyama is scheduled to guest coach at the WWE Performance Center in May. All Japan Pro Wrestling announced on Twitter this morning that Akiyama will travel to the United States to work as a guest coach at the WWE Performance Center from May 12th through the 22nd. The tweet mentioned that he would also be meeting with Triple H. Yahoo Sports in Japan originally reported the story that Akiyama would be meeting with Triple H, reporting that the two have met several times last summer during WWE's tour of the country. We talked about what was going on during that tour. Akiyama is the former president of All Japan Pro Wrestling, stepping down this past October. He said at the time that he wanted to focus on his in-ring career. He now serves as the general manager of the promotion. Not only this, but Puro Love shared a article that you can find online where there was heavy speculation and about a merger with WWE and All Japan that would basically produce NXT Japan. And there was even questions about this given to All Japan's current reigning president, and he was talking about how no final decisions have been made, but that they're so honored to be considered by such a major promotion and things of that nature. So I read that just before I came to record, and I was like, that sounds like there's a lot of smoke to this fire.
Yeah, we have a question here from Reddit user, why did you do that, bro? Thoughts on the WWE/AJPW situation. And like we've been talking about for months now, WWE is dead set on starting NXT Japan. There had already been rumors that they're setting up their Japan Performance Center, and we've been talking about all the companies they've been trying to reach out to have partnerships to get this thing going. And so obviously bringing in Akiyama here, All Japan Pro Wrestling is kind of, looks like the number one, potential partner here to get NXT Japan kicked off. And so with him kind of coaching, and he's going to be in Orlando, meeting with Triple H all week and kind of seeing how things are running the PC, I'm sure at the end of that week, they're going to make him some kind of offer to set up the same kind of model with the PC in Japan and then have All Japan Pro Wrestling become NXT Japan.
Well, that's one big thing. We also have to discuss, I know you have it listed here, the news about the closing of Wrestle One.
Yeah, so Wrestle One is getting ready to shut down and do their last set of shows. So, there are promotions in Japan who are struggling. Not every Japanese promotion is like a New Japan Pro Wrestling where they're having, their best profit years. New Japan has they're backed up by Bushiroad, and we see Bushiroad just bought Stardom and the great things that they're already doing for Stardom. And then we've seen, stuff with DDT and Tokyo Joshi Pro and Noah. It's how things are going with those promotions. But there are some other kind of lower level promotions, your Wrestle Ones, your Big Japan, some promotions that aren't really seeing as much success as a New Japan, a Stardom and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if... So last year, the story basically went that New Japan had met with several of the major companies, Dragon Gate, Noah, Stardom. Those three are all confirmed specifically as three of the companies, I think Big Japan as well, that pretty much all turned down offers of either collaboration, purchase, or mergers with WWE. And we'd heard that they met with many other pro wrestling companies that they hadn't even disclosed publicly. I wouldn't be surprised if Wrestle One was one of those companies. Now, Wrestle One is unfortunately closing very shortly, and there's also speculation that they may be the company that WWE has purchased or is purchasing to try and move forward with the WWE NXT thing in Japan. Either way, we know that they're trying very desperately to get a foothold in this country. They have Kendo Kashin working as a performance center coach, and I mean, his allegiance. He was a freelancer the last couple of years, but I mean, it's no secret that like he was a regular stable member and a respected roster member of All Japan Pro Wrestling. So there's kind of a tie-in there. Also, like the article I was reading talked about how Jun Akiyama they interviewed him about like what was going on with him in WWE, and he talked about like as a kid watching the Pro Wrestling Summit between New Japan, All Japan, and WWF at the Tokyo Dome in 1990, and like how like influential that was to him, quote unquote, wink wink, and like he's just really like being very like praisatory towards WWE, and I'm like, this is so suspect what is happening right now. And the article I was reading, they basically said they're like get ready. They're like, because Cyber Agent and Bushiroad are not the only two major players that are going to be in Japan at this point.
Yeah, so it seems pretty imminent that this WWE All Japan Pro Wrestling merger / partnership thing is going to happen. We are going to get NXT Japan in the future, and it's definitely going to probably have some kind of impact on New Japan. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a great impact at first. WWE, they're going to try and do their normal tricks of booking buildings ahead of time and trying to, box people out. But I don't think they're going to have as much success in Japan like they've had here in the States and in the UK.
This idea honestly makes me sick to my stomach. Not just because, WWE coming to Japan and all that, I'm not too worried about it, to be honest, for a variety of reasons. But the idea that, All Japan Pro Wrestling, Baba's promotion, the pinnacle of classic puroresu, the purest of pure puroresu, the embodiment of JWA, might become NXT Japan and have fucking yellow ropes and and all that shit. I'm just that makes me feel disgusted. That the place where Mizawa and Kobashi and Kawada and Jumbo, and we were just talking about Jumbo last week,
Mm-hmm.
and Tenryu and Stan Hansen and Terry Gordy and fuck all those dudes, that sucks. That idea sucks. I really don't like that idea. But at the same time, I understand it's not the same company. It hasn't been for a long time. It's a shell of what it was. So if it happens, I get it from a business perspective. This is probably,
right. I'm
it's
sure
probably inevitable.
A great financial move for that company.
Who knows? I don't know how many contracted wrestlers they really have. That's one of the things. Wrestle One, pretty much, most of the guys they had were freelancers, and so a lot of the people that are leaving are going to be free agents and up to be re-signed at other places and things of that nature. I don't know with All Japan what their situation is, but you think about someone like Miyahara, one of the best wrestlers in the world. This might be something that could be the best thing for his career. It could also be one of the worst things for his career. You never know.
Right. Yeah, you never know how that's going to work. And yeah, I feel like with All Japan, from what I've heard and know, I feel like they probably feel they're kind of hit their plateau of what they can do with Miyahara on top. And so, you bring in the powers of WWE to kind of help boost things.
I just don't know if in Japan it'll work.
Right.
Who knows? Maybe we're idiots. We don't know what we're talking about.
And I'm wondering if this is going to, obviously I know they want to do NXT Japan, but I'm wondering if with All Japan they're going to try and go the progress route where All Japan is so they use All Japan wrestlers for NXT UK, but they're still allowed to work All Japan. They're kind of one of their partners, Progress is.
And ICW and Evolve,
right.
And is OTT kind of co-opted into that? I'm not really sure.
No, I think OTT's out, which is why what's his face, Little Balor, Jordan Devlin.
Yeah,
why
had to leave.
I think that's why he had to kind of back out from there. And
pretty much their major partners are what? They've got Evolve, they've got ICW, they got Progress, and that's it.
I think those are the main ones. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you bring up a great point. I hate the idea that All Japan wouldn't exist anymore. That idea really sucks to me, especially with how they almost went under and then they kind of came back. They were improving. I know this year hasn't been the best for them, but they've been growing, and I was just hoping beyond hope that something would happen, but we'll see. You know, things are changing very quickly there.
Yeah, I'm gonna be very curious to see how Japanese wrestling fans kind of react to this news, and is there any interest in this? How will they draw? Who will they attract to these shows?
Well, they're one of the more popular wrestling products in Japan already, just based off their visibility on television. But that doesn't mean that. And again, in Japan, it's just different. People that watch WWE don't. I'm sure there's some crossover, but from what we understand, what people tell us, and the market research is there's not a lot of people that love New Japan and also love WWE. It's kind of over in Japan, they kind of you pick your home base and that's kind of what you watch. Same thing with a lot of these independent companies. There's a home base that loves Noah. It's sort of like how there's a base that loves AEW. There's a base that loves NXT and WWE and stuff like that. Sure, there's some crossover, but you can kind of see how inflammatory it is between them. That's sort of how it is over there,
Yeah.
DDT fans aren't like necessarily clamoring, it's just across the board. There's so many different types of wrestling fans. And so I don't know. We've already seen what WWE has kind of done to the UK. And it's like, did they kill the UK? In some regards, I guess you could say yes, but not actually. But when you watch that NXT UK product, as good as it is,
dude, it's flat.
It's nothing like what Progress was. It's nothing like what Rev Pro was. And Rev Pro,
I feel like they're picking up.
They're going strong and stuff, but they're not what they were. They're not this dream match promotion like they used to be, and neither Progress isn't what Progress was, and a lot of the companies out there are not what they were, and so things are definitely like being homogenized, or you can already see the major powers kind of raising up their stakes. I don't know how this is going to play out, but it's a new frontier, it's a new battleground, and we'll see how it plays out. There was news about Great Muta, though, speaking of him in Wrestle One.
Great Muta, he's currently, looks like he's going to be out of Joey Janela's Spring Break 4 due to a collapse in negotiations.
Is he out of WrestleCon too?
So this is what I know. So Game Changer Wrestling on their Twitter posted the statement that it does not appear that Muta will appear at the event. They wrote that they went.
Oh, nuts!
They wrote that they went through their normal intermediary and reached 2 separate deals for Muta. One to wrestle at Spring Break, and another for both the Spring Break event and for Muta to appear at WrestleCon as a guest of GCW. Then they wrote in December they were contacted by Sonny Ono, who claimed that he would be taking over the booking matters going forward and wanted more work from Muta. Ono claimed that a vendor had made a good offer to bring Muta in for WrestleCon and would only take the Spring Break booking. Negotiations fell apart when GCW told Ono that they expected any vendor who was interested in bringing Muta to share travel and lodging expenses. Ono allegedly accused GCW of preventing Muta from getting work that week, and then GCW wrote that they found out that Ono was this so-called vendor that was trying to, double up on the payment here from the Great Muta. So
shady.
So as of right now, it seems like Sonny Ono was trying to scam GCW. Ono wrote on Twitter that no air reservation was ever booked or deposit was sent by this promotion. And GCW replied with a follow-up tweet saying that it was a complete lie and that Ono had never given any information for Muta. And GCW did promise to try and get a replacement if Muta chose not to come up for the show.
Huh. Well, we're going to be at that show, so I'm wondering who's going to be there. I was excited. I'd never seen well, that's not true. We saw Muta last year at the Garden show.
Right.
But, that's a little different. Seeing him at an indie show was probably going to be fun, especially with the way those Joey Janela Spring Break shows are. But I also was I was torn because I was like, it's the Great Muta. That's fucking awesome. But then I was also like, it's the Great Muta. And he has no knees. So I don't know, you know. But, who knows? I hope this situation works itself out. Things are kind of rough WrestleMania weekend already with coronavirus, Tampa not being like the biggest destination weekend and things of that nature. Joey Janela Spring Break tickets have moved well, but bro, they embarrassed me this year. I'm kind of pissed because I told all of our friends, everyone in the Largo Loop group, shout out to the Largo Loop group.
Largo Loop.
I was like, yo, we got to get these tickets. They're going to sell so freaking fast. It's going to be the hottest ticket. They're going to sell it in like 2 minutes. And then there's still tickets available right now, and it's been months. And I look like an idiot because I was like, it's the hottest ticket of WrestleMania weekend. And it's like, they're not hot like that. They're still going to do well, but they're not hot like they were the last 2 years, 3 years. So
I remember New Orleans, we barely got in.
And then last year, the tickets sold out like that.
Right.
And, yeah.
Yeah, but we still have Orange Cassidy versus Minoru Suzuki confirmed.
I don't care about that.
And we have Will Ospreay and Alex Shelley as confirmed talents. So
we'll see. It's gonna be fun either way. We did have a question though about Wrestle One promotion closing from Hawaiian Punch BV. With Wrestle One's future in doubt, how would you guys like New Japan to sign some of their talent? How do you guys think guys like Shitaro Ashino, Seigo Tachibana, Kaz Hayashi, Andy Wu, Yasuki Kodama, Seiki Yoshiaka, Shuji Kondo, Manabu Soya, Daiki Inaba would do, hypothetically, assuming they don't get picked up by other pro companies or worse, NXT Japan? Well, Hawaiian Punch BV, let me be the first to tell you, I have no idea who most of those people are.
Yeah.
I know who Kaz Hayashi is, and I know who Shuji Kondo is. That's about it. I've heard about Shitaro Oshino. I think he's like the top guy over there, and everyone's kind of like clamoring for him to go somewhere. Probably, hopefully, New Japan is kind of like what a lot of people are thinking. But I've never seen a match with him. And aside from that, I don't know who the rest of these guys are at all.
Yeah, I don't watch
Wrestle 1.
Yeah, I've never watched Wrestle 1. I do know Kaz Hayashi. That's the only guy I know. I think I've seen the name Andy Wu before, but yeah, I don't know about any of these guys. Never seen any matches. Never heard anything about them, really. So, I mean, if they're great workers, hey, let's get them in New Japan. Let's get them somewhere. But
I wish we could work you and give you a better answer, but we don't know these guys.
Right.
I mean, we love like Puro, but like, there's only goddamn. There's only so many.
There's only so much time in the day.
Much time.
But yeah, I mean, if these guys are great workers,
We got shoot jobs.
yeah, jobs, lives. You got a girlfriend. But yeah, if these guys are great workers, let's bring them in. Let's get one of them in the G1 or something. Like, I'd be totally down with that if they're great. But I mean,
So let's talk about the next major controversy. Nick Aldis talking about the fetishizing of Japanese wrestling.
yeah. So he was on the Straight to Hell, I guess, podcast, which is on Cultaholics website. And Aldis revealed that one of the things that annoys him the most in pro wrestling is the fetishizing of Western wrestling fans towards Japanese wrestling. And he said, I really want to qualify this point before I make it because I know that clickbaiters are going to pick this up and turn it into something it's not. But I need the Western wrestling obsession with Japanese wrestling to just calm down a little bit. I've wrestled in Japan, and I love going to Japan, and I'll be honest with you, I don't love wrestling in Japan because it hurts. It's really physically taxing, and I don't get the same adrenaline rush from it because the audience don't react. It's like I'm killing myself, and it's light clapping. What I mean by this is I understand and respect that they have their own thing, and there are some guys who are phenomenal, and there are some who are some of the best ever, legends. But it works for their culture. It works for that audience.
Sounds like, I don't know. He said they only clap light. Maybe that's just for Nick.
Yeah, I mean,
Because I hear them clap loud sometimes.
Right. I've heard a lot of great reactions, and we talked about, a lot of times when Gaijins come in, when Cody and guys like that came in New Japan, they didn't get great reactions.
It's just, okay, so he brings up some good points, for sure. But I don't know if like calling it the fetishizing of Japanese wrestling is an accurate or even a responsible statement. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And,
that sounds so derogatory.
Yeah, and it's to finish his statement here. He says, I'm just so over this snobby sort of misconception that has sort of bled out into overall lexicon of modern wrestling that somehow, if it's Japanese, it's better. This is how they do it in Japan. What I'm talking is this sort of almost fetishizing of anything that's Japanese, and somehow that makes it better. The ironic thing is you're working the audience because most of them have never been to Japan. They've never been in a Japanese audience. They're not Japanese. They've just been co-opted to believe, oh, it's Japanese, it must be better. I better agree or everything else will think I'm stupid, or everyone will think I'm not elevated enough as a wrestling fan. I'm not knowledgeable enough. It's this sort of weird, snobby sort of culture that exists now.
This is disgusting sounding. Okay, I get what he's saying. And you know what? There's always some truth to some things that someone could say. Hypothetically, I'm sure there are some wrestling fans who claim, and I'm not trying. We're not the type of podcast that buries the fans.
Right.
We're just not. But I get it. Could there be some fans who just think that because something happened in Japan, there's a mystique about it, and it's better because of the location and because Dave Meltzer espouses it? Yes, that is a real thing. But I'm sick and tired of fucking workers disrespecting the wrestling audience that pays their fucking bills. I understand that there's a lot of two-way street here. There's a lot of times where wrestling fans are disrespectful to workers. They say shit that they shouldn't say. They treat these guys who give their lives and their bodies, and that's, in my book, even worse. But when you're the wrestler, you can't do that shit the opposite way. It's fucking ridiculous, and I don't like that. I really don't like that, especially when you're generalizing the entire fucking audience and acting like we all do this, like we're not educated, like we don't have disposable incomes and educations, and we're not free thinking. You're acting like we're a bunch of fucking hicks who don't know what we're watching.
We're just a bunch of robots that are just repeating whatever we hear.
Yeah, like we can't think for ourselves or form our own opinions or use our fucking eyes and intelligence and minds to look at what we're seeing and, decide for ourselves what is or is not good. Now, I get it. You went to a country that has a different kind of culture, a different sort of,
different wrestling style,
wrestling culture. Maybe it's not for you. There's nothing wrong with that. And, not everybody gets over everywhere. And I don't know where Nick Aldis wrestled. I don't have my cage match pulled up. I don't know what he did, what his experience was. I'm sure it was good. I think Nick Aldis is a really good wrestler. In fact, I'm a big fan of Nick Aldis. One of my favorite wrestling memories is being at All In and watching him drop the title to Cody. It's like one of my favorite wrestling moments ever watching live. And I liked his work as Magnus. Like I like Nick Aldis, but like what really entailed him to have to go out and say that statement?
Right. To me, it's like he has a chip on his shoulder because, he hasn't made it to WWE. He hasn't really been in a major promotion that's on national TV. And, yes, he's the NWA champion now, and, NWA Power is doing its thing on YouTube, but people aren't really clamoring for Nick Aldis or talking about Nick Aldis that often unless he's doing something big. And I'm sorry, like, you're in the NWA, man. Like, dude, you're in a promotion that should not even be existing right now.
There's this thing out there, in our group, we've been running a wrestling Facebook fan group for, I don't know how long now.
Since 2014, I think.
Yeah, so a long time. And one of the rules in our group is like, you come kicking that fuck shit, we're going to rip you to bits. You know what I mean? So I get it. If there's someone who said something that's stupid or offensive, Nick, if you want to go after them, go after them. It's fine. But don't generalize the whole entire audience and act like there's this big pressing dilemma, this big, huge problem where people love... here's the reality. Japanese wrestling fandom is a very, very niche thing. It does not pervade throughout... It's not something that's prevalent throughout the entire marketplace. It's not like it's this huge thing where how many people do we interact with on a day-to-day basis that only know WWE and only know AEW? Like, the majority of wrestling fans in the States. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's not like everyone loves New Japan or loves Puroresu or even knows, like, most people don't know who Kento Miyahara is. You know what I mean?
Right.
They don't know who, like, Daisuke Sekimoto is. They, like, you know what I mean?
Meiko Satomura, yeah.
Or even Joshi. It's very, very, very rare. So, like, the people that do, generally speaking, are not people, in my experience at least, and I know I sound like I'm generalizing, but my experience is most of the people who talk about Japanese wrestling are very, very devout wrestling fans.
Like the hardcore of the hardcore.
The most hardcore of hardcore. Most of them know what the fuck they're talking about. They are longtime fans who like invest a lot of time, effort, and energy to even be a fan of that, to track the shit down, to watch it, to spend their time doing that. And the reality is, here's the reality. The wrestling's better.
Yeah.
It's just fucking better. And like, I'm an old school fan, so I get it when when someone talks about like not needing to do all that, not needing to like kill your body to draw money and to get over and all that sort of stuff. And there's some truth to that. But you don't have to like bash an entire fan base and bash an entire like culture of wrestling fans to prove your point. Like, Nick, go out there, make yourself a star, do what you're talking about, and don't worry about what we're doing.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking stupid sounding. Like, it's literally, like, it does kind of, I didn't think it was going to piss me off this much because I heard about it and I thought it was just, I was like, oh, that's stupid. But once you start reading that pissed me off.
And we did have Will Ospreay come out and respond to these comments. So on Twitter, Will Ospreay said his 2020 New Year's resolution was not to get any trouble on Twitter. Fetishizing over Japanese wrestling, I can't comment on his experience because it's his experience. However, you will never form a connection with a crowd with one to two tours. It's committing yourself so the fans have an attachment to you. He said, like, I've never heard a louder reaction than when Naito won the Double Crown at Wrestle Kingdom. But it was a long-term story, something that came from years of hard work and commitment. But his opinion is his opinion. You can like it or not. Either way, NJPW is going to sell out MSG August 22nd.
Yeah, bro. Like, I mean, I'm a big fan of like free speech and people having their own opinions and everybody being able to say what they want to say, and like that's fine. But I also like I'm a logical person, and I'm like very linear in the way I think about things, and I just can't imagine someone would be that like aggravated to say like something that sounds so stupid to me.
Right. You know, if he wants to say, hey, my experience in Japan wasn't good, I prefer to work in the States, that style is not for me, you know, NWA style is my style, fine. But to bash the whole style, bash the fan base of Japanese wrestling.
Well, he's just generalizing. He's acting like people don't actually watch it and that they pretend like they do so that they don't sound stupid or cultured. You know, it'd be me pretending that I'm a Puro nerd, or me pretending like I'm a Joshi nerd, or me pretending like I've seen every single Freedoms or Death, you know, like Jun Kasai death match. Like I haven't, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and I'm not gonna pretend like I do, you know what I mean? But
right, I mean, just like the Russell One question, we could have pretended like we knew all those guys and yet made predictions for those guys, but we're honest, we don't, and that's
But maybe he's discounting the fact that like the fan base of New Japan is pretty substantial. Like the numbers of this podcast and other podcasts, and you know Google Trends and you know the foot traffic to New Japan World would like say otherwise. Like people are watching this stuff and they're enjoying it for a reason, and it's like doing so well from a financial standpoint. There's a reason that it's doing better than like say the NWA. And you know what? I love the NWA. I think it's fucking great, and I think that it's filling a void that is missing in the marketplace. But conversely, the type of wrestling that's taking place in New Japan really can't be touched by anybody, AEW included. Honestly, like it's the best wrestling that's out there. Every company kind of has its own thing that it's like going for, but like why? I don't know, man. Like you're doing such great work, and you're making a name for yourself, and you're like forging ahead. Like why are you so pissed just because Dave Meltzer's not giving you 5 stars on your matches? That's what this is really
exactly
about.
what it is. Yeah, he's not getting them stars.
You're not getting stars, so you're pissed at the fans who happen to like a style that's superior to the one that is in the States. Like that's fucking stupid.
Yeah. Well, I think we spent enough time
I'm pissed.
on this topic.
This is supposed to be a happy show.
Let's move on to some other news items so we can get to the mailbag questions. So Lance Archer officially signed with All Elite Wrestling. He will be making his debut this Wednesday. We also have Colt Cabana signing with AEW. What do you think about these two signings?
I'm sad about Lance going. I'm not surprised about Colt going. But we knew the Lance thing we knew was inevitable. I am sad about it, but you know what? Hats off to him. It's probably the best career move he can make at this point in time, given all the different dilemmas that are there, like with his health, his age, and the fact that he lives in the States and all the benefits that AEW like kind of offers him. I was hoping or kind of suspecting that he might make a appearance during the Revolution pay-per-view. He didn't, but I mean, I'll probably be tuning in Wednesday, see what happens.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how they're going to use Lance Archer. And I'm kind of hoping that Archer might have worked out a deal where he can still work New Japan.
I don't think so. They haven't said anything about it.
Right. They haven't said anything, but I'm wondering, he's making his debut. Maybe
he's a worker.
He's going to spend some time in AEW first, and when you least expect it, he pops back up maybe in G1 or something. Not saying cool. that will happen, but I hope that's happened. Either way, I watch AEW every week. I watch the pay-per-view, so I will still get to see Lance Archer, and I'm excited for him. He had a hell of a year last year. Like you mentioned, he does live in, Dallas, Texas, here in the States. That's, he wants to travel to another country. He can be here in the U.S., easier trips home.
I hope he's making that bag.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Yeah, multi-year deal. So,
but here's the thing with Archer is like, there are a lot of big muscly dudes that are like showing up here in short term. You know, Jeff Cobb is probably like ripe for signing very soon. You know, I think they're signing Brian Cage.
There was a rumor that Cage was signing or had signed already.
Luke Harper is on the horizon. So it's like, Archer, you need to show these dudes like why you're the best big man in wrestling right now. Like, go out there and fucking make a name for yourself. Make that money, you know. Who knows? Maybe you could be a champion. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, you know, fuck up Wardlow.
And like you mentioned, Colt Cabana, no surprise there. Obviously, he's great friends with the Young Bucks and a lot of the guys in AEW. Pro Wrestling Tees is, you know, the T-shirt vendor for AEW, and he has a ownership or stake in Pro Wrestling Tees. So all that whole connection totally makes sense, and I think Colt totally will fit in that AEW kind of culture and roster, and it seems like he might still be able to do some freelance stuff. He's still in NWA, and I'm guessing...
I was wondering about... I was like, if they do a New Japan Cup, does he get to stay in it?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. But the big news coming out of Revolution, Jon Moxley, who is the current reigning New Japan Pro Wrestling U.S. Heavyweight Champion, he won the big one. He won the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, defeating
Le Champion,
Chris Jericho, in a great match.
Yeah, great main event, great match there. So,
although I like the Suzuki Moxley match better than Jericho and Mox.
I do also.
Oh, nice.
So we had a question here from Reddit user Viking Pain. With Moxley winning the AEW title, do you guys think AEW would have more of a say in how he's booked in New Japan? I remember while he was Dragon Gate champion, Pac refused to lose matches and I was wondering if Moxley will do the same as AEW champion. If that's the case, then how will New Japan book the U.S. title going forward? Will they just strip him of the U.S. title again to avoid politics?
Possibly. That's a real situation I could see developing. The other thing, too, is, like, we don't know how long his title reign in AEW is really going to be. I'm not saying it's going to be, like, a transitional sort of situation, but what if, hypothetically, both companies have long-term plans for him as champion in both companies?
Right.
Then there's no dilemma.
Right.
On the flip side, I have this feeling that AEW is going to ignore anything New Japan's doing, and New Japan's going to pretty much ignore anything AEW is doing. And what it really comes down to is what Mox decides he's going to do. I know that's kind of different from what most people are sort of used to when they're considering, like, booking decisions and how wrestling runs. But, like, in this instance, Jon Moxley reminds me a lot of, like, Bruiser Brody, Terry Funk, guys from the Stan Hansen, guys who were from like the States who kind of had to like agree to do business because it was sort of the Wild West. And I'm just wondering, like, Jon Moxley has to kind of decide whether or not he's going to, and he's shown a willingness to do business. Look at the G1, obviously, but I don't think it means he won't necessarily drop the title, but it's got to be the right situation, the right moment, the right booking, you know. There is a good chance he might not do it while he's AEW champion, though. That is a possibility.
Right. I mean, obviously, like you said, it's going to be down to Mox, but I think he knows as the AEW World Champion, he is going to have to protect himself and protect that title, knowing that, you know, both companies have kind of a shared audience somewhat. So
that is true.
I think he will be selective on who he's in the ring with and who he loses to. I mean, he's been in the U.S. title picture with some big names, so maybe you have a bigger name guy, maybe like a Kota Ibushi or a Tanahashi, beat him for the U.S. title at some point.
I'm not advocating for this, but there are ways he could lose the title, quote unquote, without losing the title.
You guessing like a triple threat kind of situation?
They could do a triple threat or a four-way. He could get DQ'd. He could get counted out. You know what I mean? These are things that in Japan, the title changes hands off of. He could also stop doing dates in New Japan and maybe he's unable to defend the title in a certain amount of time and he gets stripped of the title again, which if that's the case, it kind of makes you wonder, like, what was the whole booking idea? I have to wonder, though, you know, Jon has shown a real, like, willingness to do business in Japan, and he has a desire to continue to work on the big stage there. So I'm not thinking he's going to do anything. This is just my feeling. I don't think he's going to do anything to like screw New Japan because he kind of knows his bread is butter there. I know that like his main priority is obviously AEW, but he looks like he wants to keep working New Japan for a long time.
I feel like he loves working in Japan and that style and that crowd. So
did you see Renee's statements?
From what the Lillian Garcia interview?
I don't know what interview it was, but it's like all over the internet. And she was talking about how like he keeps making her watch like Japanese
wrestling. Yeah, it was on the Lillian. I listened to that today. Yeah, she keeps making watch Japanese wrestling and stuff
or like
that.
Terry Funk like interviews.
Yeah.
And so like this is not a dude who doesn't want to work Japan. He wants to keep working Japan. So
Right.
Who knows?
And like you said, they could have a year-long title run as the U.S. champ for him. And in AEW, he can have a year-long title run, so then there's no dilemma. He drops both the belts at the same time a year from now.
I mean, dude, they do their title defense, or they do their pay-per-views quarterly over in AEW, so he could drop it the next pay-per-view.
Yeah.
He'll have a title. He'll have at least one title defense on Dynamite between now and then. I'm not saying, and maybe more, because I think Jericho had like 2 on TV, right?
Yeah, because he had the Darby Allin and the was it the Scorpio Sky?
Yeah. So who knows what happens between now and then? It's like it's a total possibility that he could drop the title at the next pay-per-view, or like who knows, he could hold it for a year. We don't really know. I mean, that's kind of a good thing, and it's exciting. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, politics are always a worry when it comes to this sort of thing. I don't know if like New Japan knew that like AEW is going to do this, but if I was Gato, I would ignore what's going on in AEW and just book my show. And if I was AEW, I'd do the same thing. I don't think either show is going to like really acknowledge that he's a champion in the other company.
Right.
Too much. If they do, it's going to be very peripheral.
Yeah. So final thing here, David Starr has challenged Will Ospreay for an undisputed British heavyweight championship match at the Epic Encounter on May 8th at York Hall.
Is that official?
I was trying to find out if they had officially signed the match. I couldn't find like a graphic or anything, but I'm assuming I know Ospreay said he was going to be at Epic Encounter, so I'm assuming that they're probably going to finalize this thing and it's going to be David Starr versus Ospreay.
Well, I think one thing that's exciting is David Starr is defending the title at Scrapper Mania against Mox.
Is he? I thought it was non-title.
Is it non-title?
Remember I was telling you about...
I know you told me that.
Yeah, but I know he tweeted that he told Mox to bring the AEW title because he wants to step on it like he did on the NXT UK title when he faced Walter.
Oh, did he do that?
Yeah. You didn't know about that?
Bro, I don't watch OTT. Like, I've seen some of the matches and stuff, like the bigger ones, but I haven't seen that match.
Yeah, last time he faced Walter, he stepped on the NXT UK title, and it was like a big deal. And so he told him.
I saw the tweet, and I didn't know what that was. I was like, what title is he stepping on?
Yeah, it was the NXT UK title. So he's telling Mox to bring it the AEW title because he wants to do the same thing.
Okay, yeah, it's a non-title match.
Yeah.
So I saw people that were like speculating, like, oh, Jon Moxley's got, this big match on the 14th against David Starr. He can't go in, as champion because he's going to have to lose to David Starr. But that's another thing to think about. It's like, they talk like that question he asked us about like the Pac thing. I'm like, Moxley might not be abiding by those same like quote unquote company rules. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know if he's gonna, but it is non-title. So
he could win.
Moxley could beat David Starr.
Set up a title match and then David Starr beats him in a rematch.
Oh, that's good. Jeremy, you should be booking, bro.
I know. Somebody give me the book, man.
It's a good story.
All right, so let's do these mailbag questions. So first from...
Also, I just want to say David Starr against Will Ospreay for the British title sounds awesome. They should do title versus title.
Oh, that would be dope. So Muzza asks, with the retirements of Liger, Hattori, and Nakanishi all early in 2020, who is your next predicted wrestler to retire? Mine is Jado.
Tenzan.
Yeah, I would say Tenzan should be next. Well, I don't know if he is going to be next, but he definitely should be next.
Either that, or I'm going to throw a curveball and say, like, Narita. A young lion that no one is expecting. Those young lions don't always make it, man.
Right.
It's either going to be a dad or a lion, one or the other.
Don't speak that on Red Narita, man.
Oh, you know who should retire?
Mikey Nichols.
No, Hanma.
Yeah.
They should do the Hanma tribute show like next month.
Forget about the New Japan Cup. Let's just do a whole month of retirement shows.
Hanma Mania tour.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So next question from Reddit user Grunty Dog.
Thank you for the question, Muzza.
Presuming he isn't forced into retirement due to injury, do you think Tanahashi will one day bow out while he still has something in the tank like Liger, or hang on well past his prime a la Nakanishi?
Well, Tanahashi's never going to not have a prime. He's just going to like extend his prime forever. He's the ace of the universe. He's basically like Ric Flair. Like Ric Flair, even when he was bad, he was still pretty good. That's going to be Tanahashi.
It's going to be like like 02 to that 02 to 08 Ric Flair run.
Bro, Ric Flair in TNA was still kind of good.
That cage match with Mick Foley.
Bro, the Falls Count Anywhere match, the hardcore match he had with Mick Foley was kind of still pretty good. So yeah, I don't know. He could go out, but like I've never heard Tanahashi be like, I don't want these guys to surpass me. Like, I think Tanahashi just loves wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see him kind of being in that quote-unquote Nakanishi style where it's like, man, he's been going for a long time. But like you mentioned, I feel like Tanahashi is going to adapt his style. And we've already kind of seen it.
Yeah.
Him adapting his style to not as many high-fly flows, not as much high-flying, more submission-based, more strike-based. So I'm going to see him. I think he can just keep adapting until...
I know that this sounds sad, but the most likely scenario is something happens and Tanahashi is forced out.
Yeah, like a serious injury or something.
Because even though he has adapted his style, he's still doing high-fly flows. He's still doing some pretty dangerous stuff. He's one of the smartest workers I've ever seen. He's able to have such compelling matches with such a limited move set, but I don't know, man. One of these days, bro, he might just do the wrong fucking thing and then Edge, Brian,
all those guys came back.
I know they came back. It'll be one of those moments. He'll be in the middle of the ring and crying and telling us how he has to walk away. It'll be, bro, I will cry if when Tanahashi retires. I'll cry hard, bro.
So, next question from Reddit user Viking Pain. It looks like Will Ospreay is going to be given a big push this year with a possible feud with Naito coming up. Where do you see his ceiling at? The guys on Super J-Cast think IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Do you guys agree? Why
are you asking us questions about Super J-Cast on? This is Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcast. We've talked about this before. I was just joking. We love those guys. Will Ospreay is obviously, I don't know that he'll ever win the IWGP title, but it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I think he will. I think he's going to, step into that Kenny Omega top gaijin super worker role, and I think eventually he's going to get that title.
Boy, oh boy, how pissed are you if you're Ricochet, looking at your career and looking at Ricochet's career?
But I thought it was Ricochet's dream, to be in the WWE and do quick jobs to Brock Lesnar. I thought that was that man's dream.
Bro, I saw him put out a tweet when it was a tweet. It was just pictures of dudes standing over him. Mm-hmm. I was like, fuck.
Should have stayed, man.
Well, he's getting paid, so it's fine.
Yeah, and he's living his dream, man.
Yeah.
Big title matches.
Him and Casey.
But yeah, I agree. I think his ceiling is IWGP Heavyweight Champion.
Yep, I agree. And I think he could be a multi-time IWGP champion.
Yeah. Next question from Reddit user WizFactor. Can you briefly explain the 4-5 generations of New Japan wrestlers? What defines a generation, and how do we know when one ends and another begins?
I don't know. I know it's more a question in my wheelhouse.
I mean, from what I've been hearing on commentary, they talked about it a lot during the Nakanishi retirement tour. It seems like the generations are kind of determined by the classes that come out of the the New Japan dojo.
It is, but they're
not necessarily, not all the time, but typically the same type of guys that come out that class are kind of paired together.
It is, but it's kind of very loosely defined. Honestly, the way I like to think about it is like decades, to be honest with you, because it's not a perfect science, and anyone who thinks it is kind of kidding themselves. You know, the guys that came out of the 70s are like the first generation, you know? So like those guys would be like Riki Choshu, Fujinami, guys of that nature. And then you had the guys that were coming out of like, and when I say the 70s, I'm talking about like they came out of the 70s, they kind of ruled through the 80s, and then like the guys that came out of the 80s kind of ruled in the 90s. So it's sort of decades-based. It's not really class-based the way everyone likes to pretend it is, because if you think about it, there's classes coming out every couple of years.
Right.
It doesn't really work. But, you know, in the 90s, the main guys you had were like Hashimoto, Chono, Muto, Hase. I guess if you want to tack him on Kensuke Sasaki, even though I kind of consider him a whole nother to me, there's like 6 generations. Like, I'm more of a literalist, so I don't think there's like 4 generations or 5. I think there's like 7, closer to that. Because, like, to me, the first class is like Inoki, Sakaguchi, guys like that, you know? But it doesn't work that way. Going into like the third, when they say the third generation, they're talking about the guys that came after like Kensuke. So they're talking about Tenzan, Nagata, you know, Nakanishi, Kojima. Those were guys that came out of the late 90s and then kind of ruled through the early, all the way up to like the 2000s. And then after that, you have like Goto, Tanahashi, Nakamura, those guys. And then if you really want to talk about like a 5th generation, you're talking about like Okada's class, guys that are like contemporaries of his, basically. So, I mean, if you want to like put it into like what people are talking about, there's basically, we're living in the 5th generation right now. But you're talking about, I like to think of it as, like I said, decades. So guys that came out of the 70s into the 80s, that's 1. Guys that came out of the 80s into the 90s, that's 2. Out of the 90s into the 2000s, that's 3. Out of the 2000s into the 2010s, that's 4. And now we're in the 2020s. So we're like in the 5th generation right now, basically.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
So I think, and I mean, that's the most general way you can kind of look at it. Although I don't really look at it that way, honestly.
So next question from Reddit user DomHomie101. Is it me or does it feel like New Japan are foreshadowing a lot of interesting matches for Naito? But will these matches actually happen or is New Japan just teasing us? The matches I am talking about are Naito versus Ospreay, Naito versus Shingo, Naito versus Sonata, Naito versus Evil, and Naito versus Tanahashi.
I think that they're foreshadowing all of those things. And this is not really a company that likes to not deliver on things that they foreshadow and tease.
Yeah, I think a lot of these matches are going to happen this year, next year. You know, Naito, and also they're doing like Naito and Hiromu. And so I can see a lot of, you know, Naito versus LIJ members. If Sonata was going to win New Japan Cup, there's your Naito-Sonata match. You know, Shingo's been talking about how he's the real double champion. You can do, you know, Naito versus Shingo based off of that. We saw the Naito-Ospreay interactions. You know, Ospreay's another guy that was kind of favored to win New Japan Cup or get a shot at MSG. So I can see almost all these matches happening this year. Naito and Tanahashi, they've been teasing that from when Tanahashi pinned him in that tour in the Northeast. And then Naito's been saying he owes Tanahashi from that. So
then again, with some of the changes to, like, say, the New Japan Cup, some of the scheduling changes, this question was actually asked last week. Mm-hmm. So if you asked me last week, I'd be like, yeah, I think most of these things are happening, which is a change from how I felt before because I didn't think Naito was going to have a long title reign. Now, given some of these prospects, it seems like he probably will. But then again, it's a week later, things have changed. Corona came in.
Plans change, pal.
So I don't know what's going to happen.
Dom Homie also had a non-New Japan question. He says, with WrestleMania week coming to Tampa in April, is there a lot of buzz for the upcoming Mania week in Tampa?
Well, if you were asking me and Jeremy and Rich and James,
the Largo Loop,
and Dan and Jamie,
and Josh number 2,
Zach, then yes, there's a lot of buzz and hype for it. And who's the guy I added to the group?
Oh, Scotty.
And then Scotty.
Nah, Scotty's still catching up from the 80s.
Oh my God! So we were at this FIP show like a few months ago, and I got tanked, and I met this guy Scotty, and he was wearing a Harlem Heat shirt, which I thought was dope. So I was like, bro, you should join our Largo Loop group, which is like a Facebook Messenger group we have, and I added him. And like, keep in mind, this is not like a open discussion group of like a bunch of like people. It's like our closest friends that we all like travel to shows together with. But like, I was drunk, bro, and I liked Scotty. He had a cool shirt on, but like, I just added him, and everyone's like, "What the fuck did you do?" Like, but Scotty's cool, but like, he hasn't really joined the group. He's kind of just there, and then like every now and again, he'll just like
pops up. He'll
just pop up and throw out some really random like thing in the group, and no one like knows how to react to it, and I love it. I'm glad I added him. The other day, he was like, yeah. I think he messaged the wrong messenger, to be honest with you, because he's like, yeah, I'm trying to catch up. Like, he's like, I'm trying to catch up. I just got done with Martel and Tito and their feud.
No, I think he was just
trying to be funny.
Yeah,
I thought because it was so out of left field.
No, because like everybody was talking about like how behind they were. Like Jamie, I think, and Josh too were talking about like how behind they were on New Japan. And then that's when he popped in and was like, "Yeah, I'm behind Martel and whatever."
On Martel and and fucking Tito.
And then we started
from like 85.
Yeah, we started trolling him. Like, I was like, I hate to break this to you, but Hogan's the third man.
And I told him, I was like, I know it seems unimaginable now, but Sergeant Slaughter's going to turn his back on his country in 1991.
And I think Rich was like, "Don't get too attached to the Rockers."
That's like one of my favorite things that happened in the group. I wanted to keep going, but it didn't.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be one of those things where like we just went.
Oh God!
But yeah, I mean,
what were we? The
buzz.
Okay, actually, Tampa's not doing so hot.
Like you said, like for us, like super smarks that live in the Tampa Bay area, we're super psyched. We have our schedules all mapped out. We're buying tickets. We're getting everything, all the details, everything planned out. But there are a lot of people, a lot of people we've met in New York last year that are not coming to Mania weekend.
A lot. And with the quote unquote traveling wrestling fan, there's a lot of competition out there. You got the Jericho Cruise, you got the New Japan tours, especially this Madison Square Garden show. You got the stuff going on in California with like PWG. Those are destination shows that people fly out for.
You got the quarterly AEW pay-per-views.
Yeah, the AEW pay-per-views. People are traveling for even just the Dynamites.
Yeah.
People are traveling for those. So those are things that really like test the allegiance of wrestling fans. Plus, how many people go to like, they talk about how the numbers for like Wrestle Kingdom have been up. How many people went to Japan that cannot afford 3 months later to go to Tampa? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Plus the fact that Tampa... Now, here's the weird thing. Everyone who's talking about this talks about how Tampa's not a destination, like, travel place. But, like, I worked on the beach. I've worked at, like, some of the, like, bigger venues around here. This is definitely, like, a destination travel place.
Dude. You go to Busch Gardens in the middle of the week.
It's crazy.
It's packed with like international and foreign people.
And you know what most of the people do is they get travel ticket. They go to Orlando first, mm-hmm. and then as part of their like travel package, especially European people, they get 2 or 3 days down in Clearwater or down in Tampa, and they come here as part of their holiday to Orlando. But I think most people don't know that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if that's the case, too, if you've got just general wrestling fans who are not coming here for a vacation, but they're like, I'm going for wrestling, but it's not New Orleans. It's not Bourbon Street. It's
right.
not, the Big Easy.
It's not New York City.
It's not New York City.
Not the Big Apple.
It's not LA. It's not Chicago. To them, it might not be like that. But, like, this is a huge touristed area. I am a little surprised. I'm like, dude, there's fucking beaches everywhere. literally paradise. Like, I'm a little surprised that people are kind of treating Tampa like it's not. I don't have pride in this place. I could give a fuck about Tampa, but Tampa's definitely a touristed area, but they're acting like it's not.
Right. I mean, but yeah, between the beaches, Busch Gardens, the aquarium, like
Sarasota's right over there. Clearwater's right over there. It's like the two of the best beach
like
areas.
you mentioned,
in the country.
Orlando's what, an hour and a half drive from here?
It's not far.
Yeah.
I think people think it is, but it's not far. It's like right over there. I dated someone for like 8 years who lived over there. Like, you know, it's not a big deal at all.
Yeah, I've done plenty of day trips to Orlando for stuff, so.
Yeah, we go to Orlando all the time. It's dope over there. It's dope over here. Tampa's huge. So yeah, I don't know. But if you look at the ticket sales, no. Like WrestleMania weekend's not doing well like they normally do.
Part of the problem is we have
6 groups.
We have not only that, we have New York ticket prices in the Tampa market.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
Because, dude, WrestleMania weekend in New Orleans, general admission for shows, you can get in $20, $30,
right.
40 tops maybe if it's like a bigger indie show. But we're sliding through for general admission with seats. Then New York came. It's the New York market. Things are a little bit pricey. You had $50, $60 for general admission, and some of that was standing room only. And now that price structure is here in Tampa, $50, $60 general admission, standing room only for a lot of these shows. I mean, the New Japan show, $50, standing room only.
I think New Japan kind of get away with it a little bit because they know that they're New Japan, and they know that they're running a small enough venue to where they're going to get away with it. It's not right. It's not smart, but they're going to get away with it. But these other companies are not. They are not.
Right.
Like, seriously. That was a Room. You ever seen The Room?
No, I have not.
I'm going to make you watch The Room one of these days so that you can, like, understand some of these, like, nuanced references I make on the show that you don't like actually respond to because you don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, like it honestly, the only shows that are, from what we understand, that are doing really well is Bloodsport, WrestleCon, and Joey Janela Spring Break. And 2 of those shows are going head to head.
Right. I mean, obviously, like TakeOver.
Yeah, but TakeOver numbers are down. The Hall of Fame numbers are down. The
Raw
after WrestleMania is down.
SmackDown
and NXT. Obviously, they never run NXT, but like all those tickets, you would think that they're higher. They're down. WrestleMania itself is down, and they've even like opened up other seats and lowered the ticket prices across the board, which is like, I knew they were going to do that, by the way. But yeah, Mania weekend is not like, there's not as much buzz as you would expect, honestly.
Yeah. Next question from Reddit user IV5277. How long should Okada stay away from title contention?
Ooh, I think I said LV earlier. I apologize, Ivy.
I think it's an I.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say 6 months minimum if it was me booking this company, but it could be longer. But at minimum, I'd say 6 months.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. Yeah, 6 months to a year. Keep the title picture a little bit fresh. Give Naito some fresh challengers.
I wouldn't be mad if Okada was in the title picture after 6 months. I'm not saying put the title on him, but I'd say find some stuff for him to do for 6 months, and then maybe put him back in the mix.
Well, I'll say that he definitely needs to be in the title match at Wrestle Dynasty.
He might need to be at Dominion.
True.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. So, next question from Viking Pain. What are your thoughts about the recent rumors of Jushin Thunder Liger possibly going into the WWE Hall of Fame?
What's it called when they would run shows against the other shows? Counter programming.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Also, what are your thoughts on upcoming Japanese Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame coming this summer, and who should be the first inductee?
Do you know about this? I haven't heard anything about this.
I have not heard about this either, man. Viking Pain has all these scoops that we don't know about.
Viking Pain, you want a job on Social Suplex?
Yeah, we need somebody to do some news columns. But yeah, as far as Liger being in the Hall of Fame, and we talked about this last week, I believe, in the news. Yeah, it's been rumored. I haven't seen like the official graphic yet of him being officially announced, but it has been heavily rumored that Liger will be going in. I mean, I think it makes absolute sense for WWE. They treat this Hall of Fame as it's almost like a wrestling show of no wrestling. You have to have draws and international stars and celebrities. And, Liger, he's a part of WCW history. WWE owns WCW. He had the match with Tyler Breeze at TakeOver. He's really good friends with William Regal. It makes a ton of sense to induct Liger in the WWE Hall of Fame, and that's a draw for the Hall of Fame weekend. You can get him to do some access signings and make some appearances that weekend as a part of WWE. So, it makes total sense on WWE's end, and it's another accomplishment for Liger.
So it looks like the founding members / organizers of this, and this is as of February 21st, Tenryu Fujinami and Riki Choshu.
For the Japanese Pro Wrestling
Yes.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's very simple. If I was doing a Japanese Wrestling Hall of Fame, my top 3 guys that would go in, period. First ballot off the bat, Rikidozan, Inoki, Giant Baba, period. Boom. And maybe if I did women, Mildred Burke goes in number 1. And maybe I don't know, Jaguar Yokota, Chigusa Nagayo. Those would probably be Carl Gotch maybe.
Who's running this Hall of Fame? Is it?
I don't know anything beyond that. I tried to look up the interview. Tokyo Sports did an interview, but I couldn't get the translation to come up. Maybe put in Mizawa too, as well. But I mean, Rikidozan, Inoki, and Baba, maybe Gotch are and maybe Mizawa. Those could be your first ones. Luthez, also. There's a lot. I mean, those are just the people coming to the top of my mind.
Yeah, so that's a solid class right there. So yeah, I'm curious to find out more about this Japanese Hall of Fame and who's running it.
Although if it was me and I was Fujinami and I was Tenryu and Choshu, I'd put myself in. Those three going first.
Next question from Reddit user Just a Little Bear 01. Do you feel since the advent of New Japan World, the young lions get more focus than they used to and are under more of a microscope?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, part of the reason why I don't think that the young lions are necessarily being treated any differently than how they used to be. The big difference is that it's not like the young lions were always showcased when it came to television. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The shows that New Japan has always put out, for the most part, have not been live on television. They've always, even in the 80s and the 90s, they were always clipped. The Pro Wrestling World Returns or whatever. And, when people are tape trading and stuff, they weren't really trading a lot of tape on those young lions. So it's there was definitely less of an emphasis on the young lions. There are people who knew who they were, but it's not like how it is today with say Shooter and Narita and Yagi and Kitamura and these classes. There's a lot of emphasis on them, and it's basically just due to accessibility because of New Japan World. So yeah, I think it puts a huge microscope on them, and it does cause them to put a lot more thought into what they're doing with them for sure.
Definitely, yeah. You have that New Japan World access, and you're watching the whole show, so you're seeing these guys grow and develop on the air, and definitely more people are watching these guys and are getting more invested in them and their developments. And so yeah, definitely I would agree that they're a little bit under more of a microscope than ever before, and they're getting more opportunities to be in New Japan Cups and Best of Super Juniors and Super J Cups and tournaments like that. They're getting more over. We've seen, you mentioned with Shooter Umino, the huge reactions he got in the UK. And also that's part of, teaming with John Moxley, but even stuff like that, the opportunities to mingle with those type of stars. So
absolutely. And I just want to touch on this. I'm sorry, I skipped over it. I want to say Just a Little Bear. Great question. I really like that. As far as Jushin Thunder Liger going to the WWE Hall of Fame, I think that's stupid. I get why they're doing it, and there's some arguments because people are oh, well, Fujinami went in before. It's yeah, but he worked for WWE. It's Liger's never worked for WWE, and it's not a real Hall of Fame. I guess I'm fine with him going in. It's not a big deal.
He worked NXT, pal.
One time.
And WWE owns WCW.
I guess it's cool. Like if he wants to, if I'm Liger, I'm like, get that payday.
Right.
Go get that payday.
CTC.
But like, I don't know. Like, are the fans that go to the Hall of Fame even gonna like react for Liger? Like, who's gonna do that acceptance speech? Who's gonna induct him? Is it gonna be Sonny Ono? Like, I don't know.
well, Sonny.
It might be.
He's out here finessing, so he might be trying to. Actually, I think it could be Regal.
It probably would be Regal.
Based on their relationship.
You know what? You're absolutely right. It will be Regal. So, I don't know. I think it's kind of stupid, though.
I mean, the whole WWE Hall of Fame is stupid if you try to think of it as a legit Hall of Fame.
There's like no real wrestling Hall of Fames, though.
Right.
There's only one in Texas, and that's not real either.
Isn't there... Maybe that's the Amateur Hall of Fame I'm thinking about.
The Amateur Hall of Fames are real.
Yeah.
But like the one in Texas is kind of just a museum. It's not really like a real Hall of Fame. And all the ones that are like respected, like Cauliflower Alley Club and like Observer, they don't have buildings either. They're not real. Like they're only real because respected people in the industry actually like vote on them. No one knows who the fuck votes on the WWE Hall of Fames.
Vincent
it's like
Kennedy McMahon.
Vince doesn't know who the fuck Liger is.
Yeah, come on.
he's like, bring in one of them Japanese guys.
we need a draw, damn it.
We're gonna draw.
Oh man,
It's counter programming.
yeah.
But we had a question from Nine Tails, spelled 9 TAYLS. I love that. He said, "Who's the next big single star to make a tag team akin to Golden Aces?"
Let's see here. Next big singles guy to go in a tag team.
Well, if I was gonna do, I mean, we can do one from each like faction probably.
Yeah. From Bullet Club, I would think. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I think a Jay White Kenta team could be cool.
You could. Is there any other mashups that would even sound appealing? I mean, like Fale's the next guy.
Yeah, nothing but Fale sounds appealing.
But I think that's probably what they would end up doing.
Right, and they kind of teased that with Jay and Fale teaming a lot on that last tour.
They could do Jay and Fale or Kenta and Fale. I don't know if there's a secondary guy in that company or in that group that even really makes sense unless you do like Chase and somebody.
Right.
But then you've got a bona fide pin eater. You know what I mean? As far as like Chaos, now we're talking. I mean, you could do
Ishii Goto.
Do Ospreay and Okada.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. That's a big time heavyweight.
Ospreay, Ishii.
Yep. I mean, any team involving Ishii, Goto, Okada, and Ospreay, that's big. That's big time.
Yeah. LIJ. You can Naito and Shingo.
You could do Hiromu and Naito.
Mm.
But yeah, Shingo and Naito is a big time. I mean, obviously, there's always. I mean, if you want to talk about it, I mean, Sonata and Evil kind of has always been two single stars just teaming up and being like a main stage tag team. In Suzuki-gun, I mean, obviously you've always had Zack and Suzuki, and then you've got Dangerous Tekkers. With what's their face is gone entirely. There's no more Killer Elite Squad, so I don't know. After that, who else you could do? Those are like the top three guys.
Yeah, I wouldn't do any other combos in Suzuki-gun.
Is there any other Hantai like main guys that you might do that you can think of? Non-chaos.
Let's see. I mean, so they got the biggest one with Tanahashi and Ibushi. I mean,
who else is in Seki-gun?
Finjuice is already a team. There's a bunch of the New Japan dads.
Well, you could do Mox. Who can Mox team with? To Twitter or to
I don't know.
Wikipedia I go.
I feel like Mox should only team with Shooter.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody that would really fit with Mox. Maybe you would have to do like some kind of an odd couple team.
That's what we're doing. We're doing like, let me see.
But I feel like all the teams we've made kind of would work together in the same faction, and it kind of makes some sense. I don't know who Mox could really team up with.
I'm looking at all the main unit guys. There really are no more big stars. That's like it, pretty much. Unless you team him up. I mean, unless you team Mox up with, like, say, Okada.
Right.
Or someone from Chaos.
Or, I mean, could you do Mox Jeff Cobb?
I thought about that. Yeah, I guess you could. You could also team him up with, like, a junior, like a big-name junior like Dragon Lee or something like that. But I don't know if that works.
Yeah, but then you still have the Pin Eater then.
I think we named all the big tag teams. We did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think, I'm looking, scrolling through the roster. Yeah, I think we kind of nailed it.
Proud of us.
Next question here from Alistair Gray from the Wrestling Squared Circle. He says, first question, given the wildly different, this is a non-New Japan question, given the wildly different responses to Super Showdown and Revolution, should we start to consider AEW to be genuine competitor to WWE rather than a merely an alternative? And a second question, in what ways do you envision WWE changing over the coming years in order to keep a fan base, the demands of which are being met by another company?
Well, I'll say this. As far as your question about AEW and WWE, you have to keep things in perspective. There have always been, and always probably will be, hopefully anyways, some sort of competitor that is widely more popular, or not popular, but widely more critically acclaimed, and from a critical standpoint, better than WWE. Whether it was WCW at various points, whether it was foreign companies, whether it was ECW,
Impact, ROH.
There's always something that's better than WWE, because I'll tell you straight up right now, and I don't care who's listening, WWE has never, in its entire history, ever had the best wrestling in the country or in the world. Never. In the territories, it was never the best territory. During the Attitude Era and during the 90s and the Ruthless Aggression Era, they've never had the best wrestling in the world. They've done a lot of great things, had a lot of great characters, a lot of matches I love, but they've never had the best wrestling out there. They've never had the best product that's out there. With that being said, wrestling is more than just how critically acclaimed something is. It's a business, and AEW's they're nothing compared to WWE from an actual monetary standpoint, from an actual visual, how many people are watching it, how much, they're just not. Now, are they genuine competition? Absolutely. But New Japan is genuine competition. All the companies out there are genuine competition with WWE. I think when you say genuine competition, meaning could they overtake WWE? Fuck no. They're not going to overtake WWE. It's not happening now. It's not happening anytime soon. And it's probably, if I was a betting man, it's probably not ever going to happen.
I mean, if it did, it would probably take a long, long time. And we love AEW, but like you mentioned, you got to look at the business aspect of things, how long WWE has been in business, the global footprint they have. I mean, when you tell somebody that you watch wrestling, they immediately say, "Oh, you watch WWE." Like,
there are issues in WWE, major issues, major problems that are definitely market based. For more information on that, I would definitely recommend listening to WrestleNomics Radio. They've got a better grasp on that sort of stuff. But I mean, I work in the financial industry, and I keep up on what's going on with WWE, and there's some definitely there's some concerning things that are out there. But regardless, this is a highly, highly profitable company based off of them taking advantage of a changing marketplace when it comes to television rights. And it doesn't matter how good AEW is, doesn't matter how good the matches are or how popular they get. The market share is controlled by WWE. The income of what they're making, it's you really can't go like you can't take that away. You can't take away their market share. All you can do is just be an alternative at this point. Could they eventually be something? Like, yeah, but it's not going to change anytime soon. In the next decade, it's probably not going to change.
They'll probably, obviously AW will probably expand, but I just don't know to what level.
Yeah. I mean, WWE's been around forever, and I mean, they're as questionable as a lot of the decisions that Vince has made and some of these recent changes. Like, this is a proven brand that is going to be around probably forever.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, if WWE goes under, the rest of these fucking companies are going under.
Because they're the top dog. They are to the average person what wrestling is.
From what I know, and I know I'm not like a market analyst, but like I work in finance, and I'll tell you this: you don't want WWE to leave, because when WWE leaves, everyone leaves.
Yeah.
That's bad. That would be the worst possible scenario for the industry of wrestling. I know like people hate WWE, especially like diehard fans, but like it would ruin the industry. It would ruin the reputation of wrestling. Advertisers and investors would pull everything from it, because WWE is wrestling. In the eyes of most people who don't know what it is, that's what it is from like a business standpoint.
Right, and if that goes away, then why, to the normal person, like, why am I going to invest in some secondary thing?
And there's some people who are like, well, there's companies like AEW and New Japan who already have deals and other things. Nope. WWE goes out of business, the people that are investing in these companies and have money in them, they're gonna hedge their bets against it too. They'd pull their money. It'd be the end of like the wrestling industry for the time being. Like, it would kill wrestling. So that's how big of a market share WWE has. It would be the most catastrophic thing you could ever imagine.
And then his second question: in what ways do you envision WWE changing over the coming years in order to keep a fan base, the demands of which are being met by another company?
I don't know. I'm not really going to spend much time on that question, to be honest with you, because this really is a New Japan Pro Wrestling podcast. That's usually what we talk about. We do discuss WWE, especially when it has to do with what's going on from a international standpoint. But I couldn't tell you what WWE is going to do to deal with other stuff. Obviously, I will say this. We've seen changes in the last year or two, given what's been going on in the changing landscape, especially with AEW. But I mean, I don't know what that has to do with New Japan, to be honest with you.
I mean, here's the thing. As long as Vincent K. McMahon is in charge of WWE, overall changes are probably not going to be made. They'll make some tweaks, but until Vince is out of power, it's going to be the same thing.
Dude, they got a huge money deal with Fox, and Fox was like, we'll sign you, but we want you to have a more sports-centered product. They're like, okay. And then they signed the deal, and they're like, we'll give you the Fiend. He's great.
You'll love him, pal.
You'll love him.
It's good shit.
Look at him. He's fucking perfect.
And last question here, also a non-New Japan question.
How about this? My girlfriend just got her like condo association just basically gave them like the platinum cable package. Mm-hmm. So she's been, spoiler alert, she's been pirating, SmackDown and Raw for the last like decade. But she was like, oh my God, I finally like can actually watch wrestling in like high def. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. So like she downloaded like we don't like actually watch like TV, we cut the cord a long time ago, but like because she has cable, she has an actual like, we have cable here, right?
Yeah.
See, I don't even watch our cable. Like I don't know what we have, but she, I told her to download the Fox app. And then, so she like downloaded it. She put her gimmicks in, whatever. And then she goes to go watch it. And she's like, I'm trying to look for it, but I can't find it under shows. And I was like, look under sports. She's like, but it's not sport. And I was like, Fox thinks it is. Sure enough, we look under the sports section and there it is. And she's like, oh my God.
Fox was trying to get some like New Japan style stuff.
It's so crazy. Anyways, we had more questions.
Yeah, so the last question here is also a non-New Japan question from Reddit user Viking Pain. He said this isn't a New Japan topic, but did you guys see Cody's new neck tattoo? LOL, yikes.
I thought it was a fake.
I thought it was temporary.
I thought it was a temporary tattoo.
I thought it was some, Hakushi, some Lord Tenzai, some.
I thought it was like the Ultimate Warrior's like face paint. I thought it was going to come off during the match, and I was like, it's kind of going strong throughout the whole. So, anyways, hey, I will say this. Here's what I will say. I don't think that the neck tattoo is a good look. I think that neck tattoo is atrocious. His wife doesn't like it. The fans are even questioning it. Yada, yada, yada. But I did see a fan who commented on this, and they brought up some good points. And they were like basically saying, and keep in mind, I don't remember who it was I was reading, but they were clearly like a Cody mark. They were like a diehard. But I thought they brought some good insight. And they were like, Cody putting his own brand on his neck kind of like communicates a few different things. Number one, that he's all in on his brand completely. Number two, he put it on his neck because his neck is on the line. If this thing doesn't work out, he's fucked. And so it's like him saying, I'm totally invested in this thing. I don't have a backup plan. It's like him burning his ships. I'm not saying that that's the smartest idea, especially if you want to have an acting career and everything like that. But I saw what they were kind of saying, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm a risk taker too. Like, I kind of respect that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the tattoo. But
it's awful. It looks terrible.
Yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, it's his body. It's what he wants to do with it.
His body, his decision. But it looks so, bro.
Yeah, it's bad. When he came out, I was hoping, I hope that's some paint, some temporary.
Bro, somebody started a GoFundMe
to get it removed. It's like, dude, what are you doing, man?
I will say this, though. It only had $5. Last time I checked, it only had $5 to it. So it's not like people are willing to go out of pocket to save him from his own self.
Right.
But, yeah.
All right, so that's all the questions. Thank you for all the questions this week, and we're gonna wrap.
Man, we only did a cool 2.5 hours on this show with no actual subject.
No, nothing to talk about. So now we're gonna close with the recommended match of the week. So first, we'll give our thoughts on last week's recommended match of the week, which was Dylan's pick, which was the Tanahashi versus Nakanishi match from 2006 in the Korakuen Hall for the IWGP Heavyweight title. What do you think about the match?
You know what? I've seen this match before, and I know it's the first time that you've seen this match, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
I thought the crowd was a little bit quiet. I think throughout the match than a normal Korakuen crowd that I'm used to. Mm-hmm. And I thought the pace of the match was a little bit slow at first. And I kind of remember myself being a little bit bored at the beginning. Then I feel like towards the middle, it kind of picked up. Nakanishi had a big crossbody off the top. He did the plancha, which actually looked great at that time in his career, and did some kind of big moves there. And it kind of built up, and I felt the crowd was kind of getting into it as the match kind of went on. And then obviously the huge, big, suplex there in the fall, and he wins the title, and the crowd's kind of going wild.
Yeah, I think part of what you were seeing there is maybe a difference in how the crowds have kind of developed over time. This was definitely, in 2009, a more traditional crowd and maybe not so rabid for the product as we see today. But this was definitely a methodical match. So I don't think it was that the crowd was too quiet. I think that they were respecting what was going on because it was, but they popped for everything.
Right, yeah, they were popping for stuff. But it's normally that Korakuen crowd's a little bit more, into it.
I think what I've always loved about this match is Tanahashi realizing he can't outmuscle Nakanishi, so he tries to take him off of his feet and he targets
he's working the legs. He had dragon screws and stuff like that,
which was kind of, and to this day, it's what Tanahashi does. But it works in a vacuum really well because of how big, muscular, and strong Nakanishi is, and they put over him being a powerhouse in the match. He's powering out of shit. And it's really the story of Tanahashi's youth, age, and his game plan of going after the legs versus Nakanishi's physicality, and like him basically showing himself to be like a powerhouse and like gutting through all the shit that like Tanahashi's done. The other thing too is like how there was a story previously like with I'm trying to remember if the Muta match versus Tanahashi happened before this or not. Let me take a look, because Muta and Tanahashi had a big match at what's it called?
Wrestle Kingdom.
Mm-hmm. But like a lot of times people kind of like compared like Muta and Tanahashi over the years and like kind of drew parallels to one another, and there was like the big passing of the torch from Muta to Tanahashi. And then, you kind of look back in history, and 10 years prior to this, who was it in the G1 that Nakanishi defeated for his big like G1 win? It was Muta. And then like 10 years later, he finds himself facing like the more athletic, the more like dynamic version of that same person. And he kind of has to like have like lightning strike twice. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the match is great. I love it. I know it's not like the same as how we see things today, but I love that match.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fine match for what it was. I mean, I didn't like fall in love with it or anything, but it was a good match. It was kind of good just seeing Nakanishi in, a little bit younger and still a little bit more agile, and, seeing what style he had back then compared to what I'm used to in the New Japan dad kind of role that he was in.
Yeah, so I thought so. So Wrestle Kingdom 3 happened January 4th, 2009. So that's when they did the passing of the torch from Muto to Tanahashi. I knew I wasn't crazy here. And then this match happened in May. So you're talking about basically like a 4 or 5 month difference. So there kind of was like a built-in story a bit there from like Muta being the guy that Nakanishi overcame in the past, and then him passing the torch to Tanahashi, and Nakanishi like kind of overcoming those odds and still able to like do the unimaginable in Korakuen Hall. And like, even though the match wasn't the most heated of all time, like that crowd pop at the end when Nakanishi like beats him is fucking incredible.
Yeah, the crowd went wild for that.
Yeah. So I mean, I love this. It's the one time that Nakanishi got his crowning moment. This is a company that doesn't generally do like the obligatory like title reigns, but they did it this one time for Nakanishi, which shows you how much respect they had for him and everything of that nature. Like, I love this match.
Yeah, it was a good match.
And where would you have gone on this?
I don't know, maybe like 3.5, maybe 3.75.
Yeah, I'm like between 3.75 and like 4. I might even go like 4 on it. Cage Match has a 8.05.
Okay.
So
it's about that 4-star kind of range.
Yeah. But I mean, it depends on your taste.
Right.
This is a very methodical match, for sure. Like, it's not the fastest paced match in the world. They went like, I think like 21, 22 minutes, something like that. So, yeah.
All right. And now it's your turn for this week's recommended match of the week.
So I sent you a link to one of these matches, and I'm going to have to send you a different link because it wasn't the one that I wanted to send you to.
Okay.
So my recommended match of the week, and I know it, I picked this one out for you specifically because I know you're going to like it.
Okay.
And it's the New Japan Super J Cup 5th stage Land of Confusion final. Basically it's the Super J Cup from 2009 final between Naomichi Marufuji and Prince Devitt.
Ooh, okay.
And this match is fucking great. And it's basically the start of a multi-match feud over the next coming year between Marufuji, who was the reigning... Well, I don't know if he was holding the IWGP Junior title at this point or not, but these guys basically battled all throughout 2010 for the title. Now, I will say this match is not on New Japan World, but you can find it very easily. It's on the internet. We will have the match in the show notes, but of all the matches they had, and I think they had like a 4 or 5 match series, this is widely considered to be the best match, which was the first match they had. Go figure. But Marufuji versus Devitt, very, 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 very good match. And and I would say all the matches they had, especially the one on January 30th in 2010 and the one in June of 2010, those are the other two best matches. But I'm going to send Jeremy to the 2009 Super J Cup final.
Nice. I like the talent of that. I love the juniors. I love Devitt.
Bro, fuck that. Marufuji.
So, yeah, it should be a very good matchup there. And we'll put the link in the description for the show, and I'll tweet it out too. That way you guys can easily find the match if you want to watch this week's recommended match of the week.
I will not be on the show next week.
Yeah.
I will be in Asheville, North Carolina. Yo, if you guys are in Asheville, you guys want to come out drinking with me and my girl, let me know.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen next week. So originally...
Isn't ACP out there in North Carolina area?
Is he North or South Carolina?
ACP, come hang out with me in Asheville, bro. we can argue about New Japan.
But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen next week. So originally, I had scheduled Chris Samsa to come on the show with me next week, and we were going to review the first round of the New Japan Cup. Well, there is no New Japan Cup next week, so I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe Chris will still come on. Maybe we will, I don't know, do something. I don't know what's going to happen.
If Chris won't still come on, then you can call Rich. And if Rich won't still come on, then you can get someone random off Twitter. And then if someone random off Twitter really won't come in, there's no other options, then Muzza, I guess.
That's the last option.
No, I'm just making that joke because I talked about Muzza one week, and then he was in our group chat, and he's like, Did I hear my name? You are the last option. We will bring on Floyd. We will bring on Amy.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm just joking. Speaking of which, recently I heard Gregory Reck, who is part of our group, Maserati, he was on one show recently that was really good. I don't remember what show it was, though.
I think he was on All Things Elite recently.
Yeah, Greg, I know you're listening. You did a really good job on that show, man. I never gave you props, but yeah. You know what? Bring on Ricky. I don't even know if Ricky's watching New Japan, but just bring him on.
I do want to bring on Ricky, but I want to bring him on to review something.
No, just bring him on. Just our fans need to know how great Ricky and Clive actually fucking are. Like, bring them on. Let's do this. Bring on Ricky and bring on Rant, and y'all three talk about New Japan.
Oh man.
It'd be good shit.
All right. So next week,
such good shit.
There will be a game plan by the time next week's show happens. Maybe me and Chris Samsa, maybe me and Rich, maybe me and somebody. We'll figure it out. But yeah, Young Boy will be out, and yeah, we'll have something planned. So
whoever joins you needs to watch this Marufuji Devitt match as well.
Right, to give their take on the recommended match of the week. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is @KIStrongStyle. I'm @Jeremy L. Donovan. Also follow us @SocialSuplex. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/SocialSuplex. You'll also find us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we are @SocialSuplex. On Reddit, I am the Pro Black Guy, and Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, jeremy@socialsuplex.com. Make sure you check out all the other shows on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. On Sundays, we have One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. On Wednesdays, we have the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show from Scotland. Every other Wednesday, we have our podcast dedicated to independent wrestling, Grown Men Watch This Shit, hosted by Jeremy Tate and Chris Bryan. On Fridays, we have Get in the Ring with Danny and Beast Mike. And on Saturday, we have All Things Elite with Floyd Johnson Jr., Amy O, and Tiffany. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. We'll catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
The Golden Aces are better than the Omega Bucks.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.